flash. Peek in the window, spot the revive, and there's only one remaining. Shipboy does go down. 1 versus 2. Do they know his position? Do they know that he's behind the vehicle? They do now. They absolutely do now, but he's still able to land the shots.
Hello everyone and welcome to day number 2 of the ESL PUBG Masters Americas Grand Final. We have 4 games in the books, 4 more on tap for today. I am your host, Porosaurus, and we will be taking you through all the games today and getting ready to see who will come out on top, who will remain on top, or if they will be supplanted. But unfortunately, I don't have to do this all by myself. I've got 2 buddies that I brought along with me, Cameron Davis and Hypoc. Hey Hypoc, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, yeah, I'm good. I miss you guys. It's good to be back. It's good to be here with you also.
It's great to be here with you. Cameron, how you feeling today? I know your voice has got to be well, probably recovered by now, yeah?
Yeah, it's sounding pretty good. I'm excited. If it's anything like yesterday, we're in for a great night of PUBG games.
Well, yesterday did in fact deliver. Let's take a look real quick at the format to see how we got here from all the way back there. Open qualifiers for both regions began way back a while ago. I don't have the dates on there, but it's been a while. It's been a minute. And then we've whittled it down all the way until our top 16 teams will be fighting here this weekend and next to see who will take home the lion's share of this prize pool. Now, keep in mind, both weeks have their own individual prize pools. So whoever comes out in first after tomorrow will be taking home $6,500. And then we will cut it over to next week. And whoever takes home the most money will get an additional $5 grand to share between them and maybe give the coach. We'll see. They're lucky if the coaches have been effective. But it's not only the money that we're fighting for, Hypoc. It's those precious, precious PGC points.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they're beginning to stack. Obviously, last time around it was TSM and SSG that came away with the stack of points from ESL at least. But I mean, that gap we're looking towards, obviously, Sonic's, TSM, and Oath really as the, I guess, expected garners of these points from North America at least.
And now that we're only halfway through the year, as far as tournaments go and PGC point collection goes, Cameron, we also have one LATAM spot at least on the line here now. But the way these guys have been playing, it might be more than that.
Yeah, there is the way that PGC points are organized. There is always that one guaranteed spot from either of the sub-regions. It's looking like Latin America right now, if they don't have any other teams put up there that are just going to qualify off of points alone. But the question that I think you're alluding to is, which Latin American team will it be? Because it almost feels like we have a new top dog of Latin America every single event.
Dogs are in the hunt. They're fighting. And you did bring up the Sonics. It felt like but going into this, it was going to be the Sonics TSM show, Hypoc, but Sonics a little bit slow on the uptake here so far.
Hey, I'm not concerned just yet. I think we all know by now we see 2 versions of Sonics where they try to flex out and embrace that fast and loose play style, which usually along the way, you know, garners them these huge kill counts. On the flip side, we saw some great examples yesterday as we're watching here of the other face we see. Calculated decision-making, structured plays, not being afraid to take space, and fight for what they want through the mid-game. You sit back and look at those games, and honestly, it becomes a matter of when, not if, they find themselves at chicken dinner. I think we're just waiting on that game where the stars align, and things will fall into place fairly comfortably for them.
Absolutely. The kills have not been the problem. As you can see, 32 already in the bag, 6,100 in damage. But Cameron, Akreche might be the one taking the spot for LATAM here.
Yeah, Sonics have been playing at the level that you expect. Akreche, the same can't be said for them. In PCS4, there were a number of moments that, at least for me, they looked very like they didn't know where they were. Here, with the inclusion of LFP to their roster, they're hitting another level. They are looking like they know exactly what they need to be doing, and especially in this game where they faced off against the Sonics, the way that they sort of pushed and pulled over control and positioning on the high ground, they knew exactly what they were doing. They knew exactly what they needed to do in order to maintain control of the game and get that win that is putting them up there on the leaderboard. But even outside of that particular game, there were a lot of successful fights that they had, not just against TSM that was also in that package, throughout a lot of the mid-game sections of all 4 games yesterday.
Well, yesterday we did have 4 games, only 3 different winners as Gas Cans went back-to-back with 2 victories. A little bit on the low side as far as kill count, Hypoc. Are we looking at Gas Cans to maybe kind of open things up here and start adding to that kill count and play a little bit more aggressively?
I mean, we've talked about obviously throughout this format, obviously the adjustments that certain teams make based on when they bring those wins in, right? Especially one that you could argue as well, Gas Cans being one that's maybe a little lower down the list in terms of expectations, right? I'm looking for a few of the big names to start strong today. Again, coming out of yesterday, Oath obviously had that game 1 victory, and you could argue a little absent after that. I don't think they're going to be coming in today just looking to coast.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention to you guys before the show. I remember I was talking to Snakers about getting that late game or late tournament victory rather to qualify here. And he's talked about how it's so much better once you get that win and you can just kind of open things up, your play style. Yeah, exactly. Your mental is much better off. But as you said, Oath, they get that game 1 win. Not a whole lot after that. So we'll have to see if they can turn things up here today. Cameron, anybody that you've got your eye on specifically here in day number 2?
So along with Sonics, I'm hoping that we see Dignitas continue to play on the level that we saw yesterday, at least that we saw on the Erangel games, which does seem to be their preferred map. I wonder if they're going to be able to actually hit that same peak level and coast until, as Hypox said, those stars align and they get that win. Troglodytas on the flip side, I know I talked about them yesterday. They've been a little bit of a disappointment. They were the Latin American heroes from PCS4, and their kill numbers from yesterday are looking absolutely atrocious. They have 2 members with 2 kills and then 2 members both with 0 kills. In fact, they're the only team that have more than 1 member that doesn't have a single kill in their stats. It's only been 4 games yesterday. But if we were hoping for a Latin American team to try and be consistently at the top from event to event, that's not the way that Troglodytas need to start.
No, for sure. I mean, I think Troglodytas, after watching them play, they're kind of playing a very similar style to Dignitas in that they seem to favor going for those kills, Hypoc, rather than trying to make the 4 up to late game kind of thing, trying to get the points that way. Is that a problematic kind of approach to the game, do you think, in this new meta?
I definitely think it can be. Again, we've discussed this at length of where teams are going to kind of find their comfort zones, right, and how they want to approach. And for me, it all comes down to that circle 1 to 2 transition. If you can come in from your loose spot, or whether or not you're going to be within that first circle, what the decision making becomes there, because we do see kind of both sides of the coin. And how often, I mean, even the bigger names within this lobby, how often have we seen them kind of become very overzealous with that circle 1 comfort zone where they don't have to move, they can look to pressure the teams that they see fit, versus the teams that end up rotating for the first 3 or 4 circles at the end of the day.
Cameron, I mean, you got to do the casting yesterday with Godspeed, obviously, and we got to see a lot of very forgiving quote-unquote circles where it was pretty much 100% playable stuff that we're kind of not used to seeing, as it's been a little bit more on the brutal side lately. Does that actually make it more difficult, would you think? Because you never really know where that circle 2 shift is going to go, and you see a wide spread of teams in that first circle?
Yeah, it is. I think what you're alluding to, it is sort of a catch-22 at some moments, some points, when there is a lot of space in Circle 1, when you don't have a bunch of water in play, when you don't have a bunch of unplayable land in play. To quote a great thinker, myself, from yesterday, the more options there are, the more possibilities that there are, and sometimes teams just might not be aware. When there are fewer options of what the game can do, even though that can make you really struggle to find your own positioning in the early game, that means that the options are limited for what you also need to be able to do next. And so your game plan can be tailored a lot better. But when the field is wide open, I think that actually does lead to a greater possibility of teams perhaps being called out and not having a game plan for what might eventually happen.
After taking a look at that leaderboard, Hypoc, I know we've kind of touched on a couple of different teams. Is there anybody else that's kind of sticking out to you maybe as a disappointment? I don't want to say, I use the word disappointment very, very loosely. Maybe just a disappointing first day, I guess.
SSG. I think it's fair to say, right? There's, again, the leaderboard can be very, I guess, deceiving in terms of obviously this new format and where teams end up in terms of, the decisions that are made along the way. And you look back at certain games and think, well, actually, they had a really good opportunity. Even yesterday, we look at game 1, there's an opportunity to convert that game, right? If you just look at the placement alone. But that's definitely not one that you expect to see down there. And again, another one that you look at the kill count and you just think, actually, maybe some things are missed there.
Well, we are waiting for those players to get into the lobby. Should be not too much longer, chat. So I know you want us to shut up and get into the game, but we're trying. We're trying, Cameron. I know we only have a little bit more left to go. What exactly are you looking for here in day number 2?
Honestly, I'm just waiting for Sonic to finally get that win.
I left it very open for you. I'm sorry.
You left it very open. It's fine. No, but really, I'm just waiting for Sonic to get that win. It's already a little bit of a shock that we didn't have a Sonic's win in the first 4 games. If we don't see it by the first 8 games of this event, that I think is when we do really want to start questioning whether this Sonic's run is starting to slip a little bit.
I think that's actually a really good point. Sorry, Paul. There's a few teams we've seen really chase things in the last 4 games. I mean, Oath is one that sticks out, right? It's one that's always chasing that victory on like the last day or the penultimate day. But Sonics is one that we've always seen them, put something up early, put a win up early, and again, similar to CSM kind of last year, we talk about being in coast mode, right? And in the fact that they can just go and find kills.
Well, we get to find out now. We don't have to wait any longer. We are going into game number 1 with your casters, Matrim and Godspeed.
Thank you so much, guys. And here we are getting everything set for our first game of the day. Godspeed. A lot of conversation regarding placement, specifically with teams like TSM, Sonic, Space Station Gaming. Are there any teams that you have your eye like? I know that I keep looking back over towards Akreshé and seeing what they might be able to pull out again today.
Actually, I was going to say Akreshé. They were the team that kind of impressed me the most as far as yesterday went, especially for a team with a fairly new roster. On top of the fact that Latin America, I mean, Kevin and I were talking about it at the end of the day yesterday, really praised the fact that it seems like they're finally coming to play. They're coming to the table. Obviously, the experience from scrims and everything else has been a boon for the teams in Latin America to play against the best teams in North America. And, I mean, Sonic's the best team in the world at this point. So it's really nice. It's really nice to see that Latin America has come and they're starting to show up and really kind of giving the NA teams a run for their money.
Now, I do want to say, if you're a fan of one of the teams that come in with higher expectations, such as Sonics, TSM, thing like that, just remember, guys, it was only 4 games yesterday, and it's going to be 4 games a day.
Yeah.
That does mean it's a little bit harder than whenever we're looking at, say, 6 to 8 games a day on some of the events that we've seen previously in the past, where you just don't have as many chances to walk away with chicken dinner. So just not getting a chicken dinner on the first day is not the end of the world.
Yeah,
it's fine. It's fine.
You know what else is fine, unfortunately, is this plane. It's pretty...
I know.
I have to say that over the course of transitioning from a player to a caster, I've become so sadistic with my with my wants for these awful circles and planes, and it was the complete opposite before. But I mean, that's just I guess that's the way the cookie crumbles these days.
You just want to see the fun happen, right? It's all just center circle, center circle, center circle.
But Matt, it's not fun for the player. I promise you, it's not fun for the player. Some of those circles and planes. I mean, this one's fine. This one's going to be really easy for most of the teams to get where they want. Sure, a little bit of the East Coast is going to be cut off, but it's just a little bit of a drift in a vehicle to get there. So, yeah, first game starting, fairly normal plane. We'll see what the circle does.
Yeah, whenever you look at everything, most teams pretty comfortable. We do say that there are going to be 3 that are down in military base, with the plane path not too likely to go that direction. The north of the map is actually fairly open at the time, as we are going to have Troglodytas make their push. TSM is going to go to South George, but Oath has a large section of the map pretty much to themselves.
Yeah, actually at Severny, of all places, and so they will. And that's you know what? That circle's not even that bad for Oath. They can rotate in off the north, potentially scout the bridges, or if they really wanted to, they could go wide towards the East Coast. We'll see. We'll see what they do. Ultimately, this is a circle we're pretty used to, I guess. West Coast.
There's so many options in this circle, though. I mean, there are a lot of fields. I know we talk about that a lot, but there are so many different directions that this can go. We usually we tend to see a lot of circles. It feels like recently kind of pushing towards that Badlands ruins area, where the old yellow houses used to be at.
Sure.
I'm kind of curious if we're going to see it open up a little bit more, like most notably back down into the southwestern areas. Maybe, I don't want a beach ending, but, something around Quarry in that area, see a little bit of a complicated fight. Wouldn't be upset about that.
Yeah, Quarry is actually a really interesting place for the circle to end as well, just because of it's awkward. It's very awkward to fight on Quarry, even if you're one of the teams that is already holding Quarry, because you have to worry about teams walking up. There's really only a few areas that are unclimbable, I guess you could say, and so ultimately Quarry would be interesting, although I can tell you from experience I hate playing Quarry circles, so I hope it doesn't go there. We'll see. We'll see, though.
You know, we've been talking about a lot.
That's like one of the few circles that even as a player and caster, I just don't want to see. I'm just not a fan of Quarry.
It's a weird, like, I like these, like, whenever you look on the outside of Quarry and the firefight that can happen around there, but Quarry on the inside of it is kind of like I don't know, it's kind of a mess waiting to happen. I do have to say, though, gas cans, while they didn't have the highest kill counts yesterday, they managed to find themselves ways to get into the perfect opportunity to pick up 2 wins. And it's kind of weird. Whenever we think about gas cans, we often think of them as a very gung-ho, like, let's go murder the world kind of team, especially in the earlier stages. But now they're finding a lot more success in this format, playing a little slower.
Yeah, and I'm curious if Greg Shot has something to do with that. Obviously, we know Adam is the one that kind of the brain behind this team and has been. But now with the absence of Oldless and the addition of Greg Shot, I'm curious if maybe Adam was saying in the interview yesterday that they were kind of figuring out how Adam likes to play and incorporating the way that they like to play the game. And it's possible that Greg likes to play a little more measured. I mean, we've seen Greg also find success on teams like Fabled before in the past. So I'm curious if that has an effect, because you are right. It seemed before gas cans were much more of an aggressive kind of dynamo, but now they seem much more measured in their approaches, which so far, Matt, it's been working.
I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's kind of the situation that we're looking at. Sure, kills are important, and we know a lot of these teams can pick up 2 chicken dinners in an event, especially whenever we look across 12 games in a weekend. But the question that I'm going to be having if I'm the gas cans is, okay, now that we've got these 2 chicken dinners and we're pretty comfortable in our positioning, do we now start going after those kills and playing aggressive like we're used to seeing the gas cans play?
To be honest, I don't think they changed really a lot. Yes, they got a lot of circle love in the games that they won, but at the same time, they didn't start there, right? They had to make those rotations. And as Adam said, he actually made a really valid point. As we're just kind of watching these teams just rotate and nothing's really happening. Adam said that it's all about the position that you take, making sure that you have somewhere to go afterwards, right? A lot of the teams, I feel like, will rotate into a very juicy position in the current circle, but Shrimps just had enough.
I'm in the same boat. Whenever I hit some of those, I'm just like, no, I'm not even going to deal with this. No vaulting, no moving around, just get rid of it.
Agreed. But yeah, a lot of the times we'll see teams just kind of send it into an area that will be very advantageous in the current circle, but then a shift or 2 later, it'll be edge or not even in completely. And so after that, a lot of those said teams will basically just kind of get stuck, either fight on the edge, lose out, or just die rotating in. And so the fact that gas cans are taking their time and really understanding the positions that they're moving from and rotating into, I think is what's been their strongest boon so far, at least in this event.
And kudos to Adam for that. I mean, he is definitely the type of player that is always looking 2 steps ahead whenever they're talking movement, next steps.
That's what you have to do in this game.
And again, that's what I love about PUBG is it's so much independent, like decision-making step by step. Sure, you can just kind of run and gun as you go, as we can see that Veritas is doing right now.
Look at this. Yeah.
I mean, and 22 is committed to this. They're like, whatever, we're going this way. You're going to keep shooting at us. Who cares? We're going to try to survive it.
A little Bonnie and Clyde action happening right now. Vehicle combat. Just driving the straight line. Sonic's already set up. And Gatka proper, which, I mean, if you want to talk about a position that's very strong in the current circle, Gatka proper is definitely one of those. Veritas, however, are going to find themselves North Gatka, which is not a bad spot to be at either.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of the teams start to condense down in towards the center. Akreshe in a good spot right now. TSM also pretty comfortable. Sonics, though, with this little bit of a split, getting more and more control over the area. Really trying to make sure that, see if maybe they can pick up a couple of kills on people that are going to be approaching from the east, because that's where you're going to see a lot of the compression coming from. Teams do look like they're taking a little bit more of a northern route, where we can see that's going to be no chance, but Oath might.
Look at Oath.
Are they stopping to do something, or are they just going to? No, they're going to redirect towards a bridge. I think
they were just scouting. The timing for no chance, though. See, wait.
Well, no chance is going to go after Snakers. It looks like.
I feel like they may try to do something here. Yeah, Balkan.
Oh, that's
gonna get a headshot. Okay.
Good shots on that. Snaker's taking a pretty decent chunk of damage, but should be able to make it back over towards his friends on the other side of the bridge, who are patiently waiting for him. So I like the play coming out of no chance, just seeing if maybe they can try to get something out of that. I mean, taking down Snakers early is very beneficial, as Oath is in a comfortable position right now in that 3rd place spot.
Agreed. And then the other good play that No Chance is making right here is they're actually rotating wide of Cube, because they want no part of that, right? They just shot at a player knowing that potentially they may stop or there is a bird tangent, so they're going very wide. And yeah, this is the correct play to make, especially if you're going to get aggressive like that and just start shooting at a rotating vehicle.
So whenever we see the circle and we see no chance up to the north, there are 3 options for bridge. There's the one that's over there next to, like, that's going to be a cube to the far east. Then there's the one that kind of falls in the middle, or kind of around the outside. And then there's the bridge. We see no chance going towards the bridge. Whenever you see a circle like this as a player, what are the denoting factors on saying which one of these different bridges you're going to take?
Or it depends on the information you get. You have to scout first, right? And then in this case, we saw no chance take shots. They saw that there was multiple vehicles past the bridge that Snakers was rotating to, and they're like, okay, well, clearly Q Bridge is not an option. Then they drove by Crates, the Crates Bridge, which they saw was pretty much open while driving, but they still couldn't know for sure. And so they decided to go even wider and get some more information. It's all about information, Matt. Like, honestly, if you're rotating or you're trying to figure out where you're going to go, especially with those 3 bridges, which, as you know, can be camped and often are, especially in some of these competitive games, just because they're sometimes the only point of entry to the south, depending on the circle. Yeah, you have to get as much information as possible and then just do what you can based off of that information. So in this case, no chance did the right thing. They could have either gotten Crates or George Bull, and they decided to go wider to George Bull.
Speaking of Georgia Pole and looking at Oath, our Georgia Pole team, TSM, playing a little closer towards the center of the circle. And you would tend to see them play around Everest. You know, that's an easy rotation sometimes. But whenever they get a circle that's favorable like this, they opt into that center positioning. And that's allowing Oath to kind of get a little bit of a high ground position. You can see it's like maybe doing a little bit of harassment. I wouldn't be surprised if that's going towards Danny G at the time, who's kind of out in the open. No chance making the run along the west as Dignitas and Fumba are also coming in. A lot of open territory, but do note the fact that Dodge has a very wide split down there around Quarry.
Yeah, and this is something that Dodge likes to do, which, to be completely honest, they haven't really been that punished for it, because I do feel like they know when to consolidate and kind of when to let go of the split. But that is actually kind of a greedy split coming out from Danny G and Veritas. He is at that... He's at Radio Tower up in the field there, and it does look like Oath is actually bearing down on him right now as we see Space Station Gaming rotating on the west coast.
Looks like they're going to get themselves a pretty comfortable position. We see a lot of people try to use this height position right along the coastline, and you can see why. There's a lot of flat ground around it, so you get decent amount of vision, and you can provide a lot of support, but you do know the fact that you're most likely going to have to move in a circle or 2 whenever we see everything start to shift away from the water. But with the amount of vision and control that you can have, if it does stay here for a long enough period of time, you can get a lot of merit out of it. Fortunately, though, for Space Station Gaming, the circle's going to go pretty far south, and now it's time to pull those triggers, maybe make another rotation pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, this is not bad for SSG at all, simply because they just rotated up here from the south, so they know that most of it is clean, and that way they actually have a lot of room to work with now, as long as they just take their time and don't, send it to another team. Also, speaking on Danny G, it looks like he did, he saw the vehicles from both, and he obviously moved, so they were able to keep that member of the team alive, and now it's going to be a mad dash to the south for most of the teams stuck in the north. That being said...
Troglodytes could be a problem for a couple of these teams as they're getting a little bit of harassment. Veritas is rolling through. You can see Sonics is starting to make their move. Troglodytes does have Oath and no chance that we're coming in back behind him. It's getting a little bit messy. That open path that Space Station Gaming thought that they had, they're going to roll right up next to 303, and Storm's going to go down off of that one, and I guess pick up a car too while they're at it. He's going to go ahead and back up and repeat away from this, and 303 looks like they could be in a little bit of trouble. One member down, another one already pinned.
Yeah, this is unfortunate for 303, considering they were somewhat ahead of the rotation there of SSG, and they got caught. They lost a member, and now potentially 2 members down. As that member of 303, I couldn't see who it was. Oh, it's Fasquez actually pinned, but he should be able to get out of there. Meanwhile, Sonics has actually moved dead center into the circle right above Quarry, or on the Quarry Hill.
Yeah, I mean, they just kind of sent it in. Dodge is already regrouped at this stage, mostly. So they should have a couple of opportunities to work with at the time. Gas Cans is going to be holding down to the southeast of this position. Just to give you an idea on all the teams that are presently around Sonics, though. Let's see, we've got Mayumba, we've got Gas Cans, we've got Dodge, and then technically a Cresce as well.
So it's going to be a lot of teams around Sonics. Their position is very good. Obviously, they're dead center in the circle, but this hill is notoriously difficult to hold, simply because a lot of teams like to come from different angles, the north, the south, the east end, all cardinal directions. You're able to walk up on this position that they're holding, on top of the fact that the sight lines are pretty favorable to the teams surrounding the center. So we'll see if there's a team that can hold the center of that hill, though it is Sonics.
We also see a lot of Syndicts into that position as well. Like, if the circle continues to crash down at that point, you got to expect somebody's going to come rolling in 4-man deep in cars and try to do a little bit of dodge as they're coming through that one. Speaking of dodge, does look like Sonics has an idea on what's going on with them at the time. Most of our teams have already made it inside the safe zone from this point. Really, it's going to be No Chance, though. It's having a little bit of trouble with that little bit of a skirmish that we saw going on with 303. Space Station Gaming decided to wrap back around to the north. No Chance is going to be coming along this point, as well as it is going to be Dignitas taking a couple of shots at their rear, forcing them to make a little bit more of aggressive play. And it does look like Roth has been spotted out. A couple of shots going to come out from RDS, provide support for the rest of the team. And it looks like 3 of the members should be making landfall very quickly. The other ones, though, you can see Space Station Gaming having a little bit of trouble figuring out how they're going to regroup, as it's going to be Dignitas yet again with harassment.
Those are beautiful shots coming out from Sparking, and they should be able to... Oh, here's the issue. They're probably going to be able to get Keenan up, but they're going to lose that bike, possibly. Yeah, bike's gone. The UAZ is also gone, and now Roth is potentially going to be stuck in that position with Keenan.
Good job on Sharp Shot to get a couple of shots back into Sparking to force him to retreat for just a second. Provide a little bit more time for the rest of the team. Waiting on the new circle to pop at the time, and still, Corey, looks like it's going to be the way that a lot of our teams are hoping it goes, and indeed it does, leaning a little bit off-center to the northwest.
You said this, you're like, oh, it's going to be Corey, blah, 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 and here we are. We are going towards...
It's almost like I've watched a lot of this game. I don't know.
It's almost like, yeah, maybe so. SSG actually should be able to get away from Dignitas, especially because of that shift and the nice shots landed for the counter peaks there, but they actually don't even really need to move. They have their eyes on the priority compound there that No Chance is in, on top of the fact that they can see pretty much everything that's going on in the center of the circle, aside from the hill that we see Sonics and some of the other teams fighting on. But here we go. Shots coming out from Fumba. Some of the teams are starting to leak in now. Sonics has realized that.
Support coming in from Young Kings to buy a little bit more time for Sonics to reposition and regroup. Those shots are going to be coming from outside the hillside around Quarry itself. A lot of teams are also going to start rolling through at this stage. You can see that it's going to be Veritas looking down into Troglodytes Exec's positioning right now, trying to figure out how they're going to rotate. Troglodytes running a very wide split across, getting a lot of information. We talked about cars rolling through these dips. You can see 22 trying to make the run through, but it's going to be Hazeton that gets the shots into Shrimsy to get the knock. Instant smokes coming out, but you can see this is starting to be a little bit uncomfortable for Sonics.
Yeah, it's the knock is not what I'm worried about. It's actually Fiumba, who potentially may pour over and see the knock. But look at this Troglodytes now. They haven't really moved, and it's just one lone member. It's Killed almost stuck at the top of that tower in this little side room. Can Necro and the rest of the Trog actually get him out of this?
Exex is the only one that's not here. Reinforcements trying to come through, and you can see a lot of throwables coming back down into VS's direction. 2 down on Troglodytes' side, having to play this one a little bit more cautiously. Let's see how they're going to play this one. Exex can't make a move. He's still surrounded by Veritas, and he is one of the members that is down at the time. So just going for the flushes, and there we go. Troglodytes managed to take them down, but there was a pretty hefty cost in that.
They are gonna lose. Yeah, Exex is gonna go down. They should be able to get up kill demo here, and at the very least, you know what? 1 for 4 or 1 for 3, it seems like, is definitely not the worst rate for Trog, but they also have to worry about the other teams potentially coming in and smelling the blood, Veritas being that team.
The more and more we see Versus, the more and more I'm getting impressed with them. The capabilities of what we can see them whenever they're trying to take the fights, that one doesn't show it. But what we've been waiting for quite a while regarding like movements and play styles is going to be Troglodytes. Troglodytes was in a very, I would say, uncomfortable position on that, and very quickly responded, regrouped, and managed to turn that fight back around into their favor. And I'm hoping that means that we're starting to see some signs of life coming up from Troglodytes.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good defense of the tower. That's also a difficult tower to push generally, but yeah, the fact that they were able to use their utility to take down most of the members and just do most of the damage, and even save at least one of their knocked members was good. So Trog, it's been a little bit of a struggle bus, at least it was yesterday. Hopefully, you know, with the start of this, a nice little 3K for them, it'll turn things around.
Well, look at this. Troglodytes just doubled their kills of yesterday, so that's a magnificent start versus what was going on.
That is true. That is very true.
Oath in a little bit of trouble here. I mean, they do have a couple options on how they can make it into the circle, so it's not the worst. It's just not a comfortable rotation.
Yeah, they're just going to have to... They're most likely going to have to fight a team coming in on this eastern edge, and if anything, I'd imagine they'd go more towards the southern side of the circle, because Young Kings has a compound that very much could potentially have good line of sight on them.
And the harassment coming out from gas cans. You can see Veritas. Looks like they're going to roll through. So we've got Versus and Veritas both coming in to try to assault the Troglodytes location at the time, but Danny G down. Loeb's taking a lot of damage. Looks like they're going to have to retreat just a touch. Grenade is going to connect onto Danny G. So let's see. I think that Veritas, I don't know if they're going to commit to this. There are so many throwables that are coming out. And look, Troglodytes not even really playing in the tower itself.
At this point, they don't really need to. They have that ridge right in front of the Wizard Tower to play. On top of the fact they still have a decent amount of utility from the members that they kill off of Versus, so there's no reason for to play in the tower. However, Veritas is not backing up off this fight. They know, especially after the knock, that Trog is at least down one member, so it's a 4-on-3, and once they push Trog into the tower, which is what they're doing right now, pretty much get to just kind of shoot fish out of a barrel.
They got to go fast because I think Dignitas might be coming up back behind them, and Veritas realizes this. They're in a vulnerable position while a lot of teams could be rotating soon. Trying to step through, finding the different angles onto it. Danny G lines up, doesn't get the knock onto it. Junior is down at the time, so a little bit of maneuvering around, trying to get into position in this low point. Gonna go ahead and go for the flush onto it, but you can see Troglodytes again leaving the tower, trying to get a little bit more angles onto it. Nobody has vision on what's going on, but there we go. Veritas spots out Necro, and that's gonna be Troglodytes going down.
That flash was out of control. It actually almost saved Necro, but he's going to go down. Nice cleanup from Veritas. They are going to lose a member, but Dig has actually opted to not even bother. They've rotated up to the northwest.
They were coming along this angle, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe hearing that firefight might have been what stopped them. But guess what? More friends now appearing on this point, as it's going to be Space Station Gaming that got shoot out of this position, now coming back to it, trying to see if maybe they can get a little bit more of a foothold. So we have 3 different teams kind of posted up on the different areas, and this complex can kind of support 3 teams, but it's going to be a very uncomfortable situation for each one of them.
It definitely can, but yeah, it's not ideal. I think Dig actually has the better position right now.
Yeah.
Simply because they can pull off SSG as well. It's really just, it's no chance. No chance is just sandwich right now, which is going to be difficult for them to get out unless one of these teams pull out. And that's going to be a nice knock coming out from Balkan on a sharp shot, though.
Should be noted, this is all right along the edge of the safe zone as well, so high likelihood that we might see the circle pop away from this, and every single one of these teams is very aware.
Oh, what happened to Oath?
Getting taken down over there, as it looks like it was a combination between 3 different teams, Gas Cans, Young Kings, and I believe Sonics that managed to decimate them. Gas Cans, a little bit of trouble as Adam is bleeding out at the time, but here comes the blue zone, making it a little bit more problematic. I wouldn't be surprised if they're just going to have to leave him behind at this point, just opting into their 2 members that they still have up. Oh, nope, I think that we might be able to see. Red's pretty close.
Cable just ran through that molly, and because of that, he's going to get knocked, and it's now starting to look pretty grim for no chance.
Yeah, with this, we also see Civ is stretching out a little bit further to the south. Dignitas realizing this might be a little bit too heavy for them. Going to go ahead and try to reposition away from this one. Honey Badger's got to play this careful, though, because Veritas did reposition away from the Wizard Tower just a little while ago and might have some vision in what's going on. You can see Gascan's 2 members now looking back in the direction of Dodge, who's been doing the harassment and denied the res that they were trying to go for just a second ago.
I actually really love this play from Honey Badger. He also immediately noticed that they needed to get off the compound. He got this angle, but Civ actually had the same idea, so now they're in a little bit of a duel. Civ obviously with a better cover as smokes go down for Honey Badger. And they do have something that they can play. Actually, they don't. Veritas is holding out the other angle that they could potentially rotate into the base of that mountain.
There is a lot of flat
Dig's in a lot of trouble
circle
right now, potentially, yeah. And SSG is doing exactly what they want to do. They have a position in the circle right now that they can hold from, and they can hold out not only Dignitas, but the last member or members of No Chance.
It feels like the only team that's comfortable right now is Acreche. Everyone else is just kind of cursed to fight along the edge of the zone with very few options, and that's just due to the nature of the beast and the train that's around them. Civ does get a nice angle on a Honey Badger, and that's going to provide a big opportunity for the rest of the squad. Dignitas now realizing they're in a little bit of trouble. They're going to have to make some type of play off of it. Sparkin going for a little bit of look, but it's going to be Danny G that gets the shots into Shinboy as well. This crossfire position that we can see Veritas setting up is absolutely destroying Dignitas right now.
That's so frustrating. He wanted to get the res, but he entered the vehicle. And now here comes the nade. Space Station smells blood in the water. On top of the fact that they know Veritas was taking shots at Dignitas, but Veritas is also taking shots at Young Kings, who are set up quite well in the circle right now. As Civ is going for this push.
Yeah, I like the fact that they're in no rush onto it. Still just trying to lean into the train, take the shots that they can. Takes a face full of lead and has to retreat a little bit. The other members from Space Station Gaming still playing inside this touch of a dip. And there you go, Dignitas does go down. It's going to be a little bit more support coming in from the Space Station Gaming guys. Now Dignitas has to look to the southeast as Young Kings might be a little bit more of a problem for them. Space Station Gaming getting control over the northwest. Veritas now having to worry about the congestion. Do note the fact that Cresce is still comfortable, but down to the south, it's going to be Sonics looking at the last member up for Dodge, and that's going to be Vegas as he does go down, and Gascan's last 2 members.
Just Penta now for TSM FTX, and honestly, again, Sonics find themselves in one of the better positions towards this late game. Nice nade, though. Don't count out Penta.
He's got himself a big boy gun right now and is thinking about doing some work into it. He knows the fact that he needs to at least get some kills as he does have a big threat in front of them. Going to go ahead and prep up the grenade. Should have an idea on where the res might have occurred. I don't know if that one's going to line up, but it's going to be Hikerman that provides some support. And now it's going to be Sonic, so 2 different points getting assaulted at roughly the same time. Quick Spray is coming in, and Pinta's going to walk away from that one. But keep in mind, Greg Shot still has a nice angle into everything that's going on. And I believe that we only have only one of the Sonics members now up as they just got torn apart from 2 different points.
The timing there from Hikerman and the gas cans was just, it was almost like it was the same team working together to take down Sonics there. That was very unfortunate timing for Sonics, but very fortunate for Penta. And Hikerman is continuing his onslaught. 6 kills.
This is what we needed to see out of gas cans. While
You
they
said
did
you
manage to
wanted
walk away
aggression.
with a
Here
couple
you
chicken
go.
dinners, they needed the kills, man. And look at this. From this point, they are harassing anything. They realize where they can see weakness at and are trying to exploit it to the utmost. Every single weakened team around them is taking punishment from gas cans positioning, and that's exactly what you want. When you have this high ground point, you want to make sure you're setting the tempo of the game.
And that's exactly what they're doing. The circle is also so favorable for them right now. It's really just a Crochet that are kind of in the last compound, the last bastion of protection, but they might also have to move out here as we move over to Publix, and Young King's the last member. Can he get a wipe? Can he take out Danny G? Can he finish it?
Oh, no, it's gonna be Hikerman off to the side. They got the tap shots into that. Publix is near on no life and has to move. Blue Zone coming in back behind him. Doesn't even have time to get his meds off. Is he contemplating going over to the vehicle and trying to use it for some cover? That is indeed the case, but he has to be very careful as that Blue Zone is about to catch him at any given moment.
And I mean, they're just watching that. That's another potentially free kill. Yep, there it is. I mean, that's not to call Publix bad. It's just the position he was in was awful. So realistically, Hikerman is going to pick that up. There should be 7, I think, or 8 kills now for him as Shrimzy is on fire, crawling forward. Survive.
I like this. Shrimzy's like, fine, you want to harass my team? I'm just going to keep moving forward slowly and steadily. Penta just has the perfect read on where he's going to be playing from. Is he going to be keeping an eye towards the right of this? He knows where the Molotovs are at. Should see him pop up at any given second. And there you go. That's going to be Penta putting in the work as Sonics does go down. We have our last 4 teams.
I am not counting Penta out. You never know what this kid can do. I mean, we've seen some pretty amazing stuff coming out from him before, and even still just racking up the kills. Even if they don't win the game, I mean, Penta's done a good job of getting a good amount of kills as well, pushing this game forward, or at least this week forward for TSM FTX. But moving over to a Crochet, I mean, they're still in. They don't have to move. Same with gas cans. And SSG is actually still very healthy on the north side of this.
Keep in mind, Akresh's at 32 kills at the time. They've been racking up the kills yesterday, and they're already sitting at 1 chicken dinner. This is a beautiful position for them to be playing from, as a lot of these other teams are now having to skirmish against each other. Space Station Gaming taking the shots into gas cans, going to go ahead and take down and flush out Hikerman. So now it's just going to be Greg Shot over towards the east, and then to the south of this, we're going to have Penta, and then it's just a lined up 4v4 Space Station Gaming versus Akreshe.
And Akreshe now have to move, as you stated, Matt, and their best play, to be completely honest with you, is probably just a wrap here to the south. They wrap to the south, they get control of what's left in that hill, and then they kind of rain down hell on SSG. As long as they can just get rid of Penta.
It's a big ish, the way he's playing right now.
Yeah, which, you know, even as a 4-man, it is possible that they just give him a bunch of 1v1s, or he just gets some nice utility off, depending on what he picked up off of Shrimzy. So we'll see.
There's a smidgen of this hillside that is in play, but it is a mostly flat, open territory piece. That's why you see a lot of these 4-man, or both these 4-man squads at the time, trying to figure out, okay, when do we make our move? Kreshev should be aware, as well as Space Station Gaming, where the lineup is. And ooh, Civ just a little bit too far back. Might have to med up before they go ahead and decide to make their send it over, as they are going to lean into the vehicles. Looks like they're going to run 2-2. And at this point, it's going to be a matter of how Greg Shot and Penta have vision on what's going to be going.
Oh,
are they going to run together?
Struggling.
No!
Oh,
this is so
goodness.
much blue damage. Space Station Gaming, you guys have got to go. Now they're chasing after the blue, trying to run ahead. Civ doesn't manage to make it. He's going to go down. Sharpshot's taking a ton of damage and staying just narrowly ahead of the blue zone. The other two roll forward and do manage to get into a nice spot. Going to go and throw down some smokes. That's going to be the opportunity for Akreshe to make a little bit of a move, as RBN is going to go ahead and hit Kenan. And this is just coming apart at the seams for Space Station Gaming.
I'm sorry, I don't know what to say. I'm actually at a loss for words. That's unfortunate, man.
And look, Akreshe knows. Akreshe knows. Look at how they're taking the circle right now. They're moving forward, not even having fear, just using smokes and running into the center points, trying to play around the little bit of cover that exists inside of the zone.
I mean, Akreshe at this point have most of the control, but it's still possible for either one of these teams. Okay, well, it's not possible for Penta. He just got unfortunately rolled over, but very good round for him to save for TSM FTX. Now it's up to Sharp.
Exactly. With this off position that he's playing from the duo, he might be able to find some angles to where he can harass Akreshe. It is the 3v4, and while it was a rough rotation for Space Station Gaming, they did only lose one. Sharp taking a lot of damage and almost losing his armor. Oh, the side angle RB in with a beautiful flank off to the side of this, and you can see the fact that he's putting in some work. Roth now going down as well, and it is just Kanan, the last one up for Space Station Gaming. Very aware, but look, there's just too many angles. Akreshe took that one with authority.
It's man, it's really crazy because that game could have been completely different had Space Station actually got off of that little ridge and made it to where they wanted to go. I mean, arguably things just based off of where Akreshe was, you can say that maybe would have played out the same way. But yeah, that was just really unfortunate. That being said, Akreshe, I mean, they played really well. Sure, they were in that compound for ever, but the fact is they came out and they still got a good amount of kills with that win as well. So we talked about Akreshe when we got thrown to, and we're talking about Akreshe now, so not bad.
I mean, just a good performance. That was a clean finish on that one. They knew what they needed to do. They knew exactly where Space Station was. Again, not the cleanest rotation coming up from Space Station Gaming. It looks like they had a little bit of a lip that was right there that was really denying them the capabilities to move forward. And again, whenever disaster struck, they did manage to at least try to find some way to make it work, but just with the vision and the amount of damage that they took on the approach, it was just problematic. And I don't think that they had a slightest clue that Akreshe was making that side flank onto him. So beautiful play coming out from RBN.
Well, I think at that point they were just kind of on damage control, right? They just lost Civ for free, unfortunately, and the fact that a member was one of the members was knocked for them, and I don't think they really paid as much attention to the fact that Penta got taken out, and so that opened up the hill for RBN to push up, and then it was just really well played, honestly, from Akreshe. You got to win the games you're given, and that was definitely a game that they were given, and they took advantage of it. Not only that, but they actually got a decent amount of kills for how many circles they got, so can't hate on that.
The Space Station Gaming also making it that late into the game, given how much they were involved in. I mean, they felt like it was firefight upon firefight for Space Station Gaming. The fight around the Wizard Tower was ridiculously interesting, though, as it was just a constant back and forth of everybody trying to leave the tower to try to defend it, and you can see how rough it is as people can just run down that hillside.
Yeah, not only can they run, but they can toss utility in both levels fairly easily without any kind of repercussions, right? And then, as you said, we saw Space Station Gaming fighting quite a bit here at this priority or God compound, whatever you want to call it, and because of that, they actually were able to get a decent amount of kills and push off Dig and a few other teams and get kind of this northern side of the circle for themselves. Unfortunately, we saw what happened after that, and then Sonics, man. Again, it was the very calculated teamwork of two separate teams in Hikerman who gets a massive shout out, as well as Penta. They were able to sandwich the Sonics and just take them out quite efficiently, if I'm being honest. The
amount of kills that Gascans managed to pick up was notably due to Hikerman and the amount of damage he was putting out. I think that he walked away with, was 7 kills?
Seven, right? I think. You can just say the amount of kills that Hikerman got, not Gascans. That's not throwing shade. It was all Hikerman, man. After the other two members went down, I think Greg Shot also had a kill too, a kill or two. But yeah, so that was really ridiculous. That was a phenomenal game for Gas to have, even though they didn't win. The fact that they already have 2 wins and they racked up another 8 kills was, 9 kills total was very impressive. And then Akreshe just came off of this hill, did exactly what they needed to do, positioning wise. They knew where every member of Space Station was, and they absolutely punished him. Very well played.
Such a technical ending on so many different points there. As you can see, kill points coming up, and that looks like that's going to be a big factor coming up between Akreshe and Gascans, who are now going to both be sitting on 2 chicken dinners, and that means it's going to be a little bit more hectic for the rest of these teams, because we talked about one of the problems whenever you're looking at this, if you're these other teams, whenever 2 teams, 3 teams start taking away all of the chicken dinners, it's going to make it a little bit more pivotal on the kill side, and at least securing 1, so that way you can find yourself in a decent spot.
Yeah, but I have to agree as well with the desk. I mean, for as well as Space Station played for the majority of that game, right? It's little blunders like that we saw at the end that yeah, they've just been underwhelming so far, which for that roster shouldn't really be the case because Space Station is definitely one of the strongest teams in this region, and so far, at least in ESL Masters 2, they haven't really showed it. So I'm hoping in the next 3 games, look, they still have 7 games, right? It's still far from over, and that's just this week. I'm just hoping they can bring something back going into the next game.
I just want to say to everybody that was talking trash about gas cans and circle luck and, oh my God, not getting any kills, go back and watch this game and look at the kill capabilities that squad has, and now feel a little bit bad about your comments. On the other side of that one, though, Akreshe. I'm starting to be a little bit afraid for the rest of the lobby. These guys are playing pretty powerful.
I mean, they're playing very well, but again, actually, no, yesterday they played well as well. I think they were at least 2nd or 3rd in overall kills. So Akreshe, whatever they're doing, honestly, they just need to continue. Obviously, that game is a little bit harder to talk about because they sat in a compound. But regardless, yesterday they were showing a lot of movement. And the most important thing that I think Akreshe has done is the fact that they're being very proactive. And we've seen more of that from the LATAM region. But specifically, Akreshe has been incredibly proactive, and that's why they've been getting so many kills and playing so well.
Whenever they had, they knew that they had the numbers advantage for that end game, but instantly running forward, getting control of the center of the circle and saying the fact that, okay, we're going to go ahead and stake this right now. We know that people are going to be coming after this point, but we know we can take the firefights. We know we've got a guy off the side to flank. That's what you want to see coming out of a team, realizing the opportunities that are in front of them. And instead of playing passive, leaning into it and saying, no, we're going to take it.
I agree. And because of that, yeah, Akreshe has been very impressive so far. And again, I just want to see if they can continue the consistency.
All right, guys, well, we're going to take a quick break. Make sure you stay tuned because we still have 3 more rounds of action to go.
Alex, eu sou de Brasília.
Meu nome é Ricardo, meu nickname é Rizola e eu sou de São Paulo, Brasil.
My name is Austin Scherf. I go by the name Mime in game, and my hometown is Moore, Oklahoma.
Com a junção das Américas, eu percebi que você não tem a oportunidade de errar, você não tem uma chance de errar. Você tem que ser full focado, você tem que tomar as melhores decisões, tem que ter uma team play absurda com o seu time, você não pode errar. Tem que saber a hora de ser agressivo, a hora de esperar a safe bater, a hora de juntar os bonecos para fazer uma jogada, combar a granada. É absurdo, o nível de competitividade é muito alto. É uma coisa genial.
Nothing really has changed a whole lot. We still play our game, play as a team, and win. No, we own our drop spots. If anybody would like to come, we can take them out of the game.
Cara, mudou, né? Porque hot drop, como a gente chama aqui, é muito ruim, porque atrasa o game das 2 equipes que estão disputando aquele spot, né? A gente, no caso, em Miramar, caímos pecado. E a gente não quer hot drop com a Sonics, que é um time... O melhor time do mundo hoje, na atualidade, é a Sonics, que é um time que eu acho que muita gente estuda eles, só que a gente não quer esse hot drop, né? Então a gente mudou de spot e a gente agora vamos ter que, nas screens que vai ter essa semana agora, a gente vai ter que estudar novas rotações, estudar os times também, pra a gente consolidar partidas boas durante a final da ESL.
My favorite throwable would be a grenade, since it does the most damage and masks the most noise.
Meu arremessável preferido é a Bang, porque deixa meus adversários totalmente perdidos e sem enxergar nada.
just jumped out the plane. Don't matter what we landed, cause I'm about to bring pain. You don't wanna push me, John Wick with the aim. Told my girl that I'm sleep, but I'm really on the game. Real talk, I put my all in this. This the only game I play, man, it's obvious. Treat this game like it's really a sport. About to put your boy on the PUBG report.
You absolute mad lad.
It's pans, crossbows, and explosive.
You want to see that? Let's go. Oh, yeah. Let's get you leveled up. Damn, my setup sucks. I did my time. Or so I thought. Kill survivor one. Now it's your turn to hide.
Hello, everybody. We are back once again after one game is in the books, and Akreche gets their second victory of the tournament so far. Really well played by them. 9 kills, not a bad performance, but they got a little bit of help by a little bit of a misstep on the part of SSG. Hi, Fock. I know you were wanting to defend our boys here a little bit.
No, absolutely not. Obviously, you guys talked me out of it. Completely unforgivable. It totally altered the outcome of that. No, seriously though. I mean, yeah, it's kind of awkward to see things like that happen. I don't think it had a massive impact because at the end of the day, Akreche are going to make moves out there, right? The control they had just purely based off positioning. And again, you talk about circle luck if you want, but that's the sort of circle that usually comes down to one of the teams that's got there early. More often than not is the one that wins that, right? It's never really a team that comes in from the west side, at least, especially if God Compound gets cut out when it did. But yeah, maybe you could make an argument if they were 4 up and had an extra 10 seconds to get in and set up. SSG could have put up a fight there.
Let's see, Cameron, you gonna be a little bit more brutal with them?
I could be a lot more brutal with
Go
it.
on, then.
Listen,
Go on, then.
We know that
Twist
these
the
guys are really, really good players. This isn't even about that previous game. We know that the members on SSG are all really, really good players. They've all had their own highlight reels within the team, but the team itself has yet to have a highlight reel of all 4 players coming together, and we could give them a little bit of slack early on in the year when they first formed, but at this point something has to change because these players, like these 4, you gave me a list of these 4 players, they should not be playing as chaotically as SSG seem to do.
Hey, I think as well there's an argument to be made that, you know, if we talk about underwhelming yesterday, that's the sort of game that maybe comes along in 1 in 5, right? And we talk about, you know, the stars align and you have an opportunity to close out, and I hate the phrase I always come back to, but you got to win the games you set up to win, right? If you have 4 up and it comes to a straight 4v4 like that, then yes, you can make the argument that you can't be making those mistakes.
True, and you know, honestly, I'm known to be a little bit more brutal, but to be fair, I was hey, look, for the final day of open qualifiers, I was cutting extreme from 300 slack when he got caught out in the blue during a little bit of a flank. So I got to give the same slack over to SSG. I think they played a pretty good game up until that point, and you know, things were looking good until they weren't. And you know, if SSG kind of keeps things going the way things were going, except for that one minor mistake, I mean, they'll look good for today.
They have a couple more games like that, then, you know, maybe we see them put the victory up today. That's definitely a better start when we look at yesterday as a whole.
For sure. Okay, so we got to address the elephant in the room, Cameron. If I would have mentioned to you that 2 teams at the end of 5 games would be sitting at the top of the leaderboard with 2 wins apiece, how long would it have taken you before we got down to gas cans and Akreche?
A long time. An incredibly long time. The fact that, and I said at the beginning of the show that Akreche, it was a surprise that they played as well yesterday, that they're continuing to put up the numbers. And yes, they did get a little circle favored at the end of the game today, but they still seem to be firing on a decent number of cylinders here. We're still sort of waiting for the usual suspects of victors. Of both North America and Latin America to really show up. But if it keeps going on like this, the entire expectations of who's on top and who's on bottom is going to be flipped.
Well, yeah, I mentioned earlier, having a conversation with Snakers about the pressure that comes with this format, with every game that passes without getting a victory. Hypoc, Sonic's TSM not usually in this spot. Do you think that it might be affecting them a little bit, or is it still too early?
By the way, just on a side note, it's poetic you mentioned those two in that light, and it's what we saw happen in that previous game happened, right? Penta opens up and that third party literally comes online at exactly the same time. But yes, I mean, there's still an argument to be made that I still think with those two, it's more often than not a case of when, not if. It's just... It's awkward, really, to sit back and look at some of these circles where, on a macro level, you've got to pit Sonics and TSM higher than the vast majority of other teams in this lobby, right? So if we can't kind of get the basics right, we don't get to the point where we see them actually in their comfort zone, which is, defending spots, putting kill points up along the way to victories.
Playing with a lead. And, Cameron, I touched on it yesterday, and I kind of said that maybe we've gotten so spoiled by seeing Sonics and TSM win when they're in such poor situations that maybe we're being a little bit hard on them here, harder on them than we should be. Do you think that might be true? Or
I think that there's some value to that. People discount the difficulty it takes to stay in the lead. You don't just get to be the best team in a region, the best team internationally, arguably for Sonics, and stay there just by sitting on your laurels. Because everyone else is training, you need to keep pushing yourself at the same rate.
Team fights, and to be fair, Sonics in particular have looked great so far in terms of kills. It's just been the wins, and we've seen them kind of lose some team fights maybe that we've used to seeing them win, but have all confidence, all faith in Sonics Nation and Sonic's ability and TSM's ability to get back in that spot. But we are ready to head into game number 2, so let's throw it over to your casters. Matchroom and Godspeed.
They're so nice. I'm just on the Akreshai bandwagon. Let's go, Godspeed. These guys are showing up.
No, I mean, that's a good bandwagon to be on right now, to be completely honest. But I also agree with a lot of the points about Sonics, is the fact that I'm not, at least with what Hypoc said, I'm not really worried about them either. The thing is they're still racking up kills, and even in that game, they didn't look bad. They haven't looked bad. Like, Sonics have not looked bad at all at this event. They've just been either hit by some unfortunate third parties. Again, like, that was a perfect union there between Hikerman and Penta to take out Sonics in that last game. But yeah, they're still racking up kills and doing what they want to do. And I think ultimately it's going to come down to just eventually one of the games today, they'll probably end up taking the victory. And the same thing for TSM, except the only difference I would actually say for TSM is the fact that they haven't really been winning the team fights Sonics has. And so for that, I'm very curious what is going on with TSM's team fighting right now.
It's just been quiet. Whenever we're seeing team fights, they're, I guess, more chaotic than what we normally see coming out from TSM team fights. This has been a team that's been notoriously controlled whenever we look through. We often talk about the fact of how intellectual and how they approach everything. This time around, it's a little bit more loose. And going back to the Sonics thing, I do want to hit on, it almost feels like whenever you're the best, you end up with a target on your back. We're seeing a lot of third and fourth parties coming out after the Sonics, and they're still managing to walk away with kills, but it's forcing them to limp into the later stages of the game just due to the amount of threats that are coming after them.
It is, but even still, like, if you want to look at that Miramar game that Sonics had the other day, where I was shocked that they even made it off of the position they did after that. They were being held in the compound by TSM FTX, and they were fighting, I believe it was one of the Latin American teams. I don't actually, was it No Chance versus? I'm not sure. But the fact that they made it out of that was very impressive. I agree wholeheartedly with you on the fact that TSM just looks like they have no control right now. It's a lack of control in their team fights. Their rotations don't seem to be that off. It's just, for whatever reason, they are not fragging to the capability that we are used to seeing TSM frag to. And I think actually a good example of that was the game that they fought just under Everest at that little yellow ice cream shack compound, where they lost that fight where they had the advantage after they had gotten some beautiful knocks, and Luke actually went out and got knocked, unfortunately, without any other support. So yes, I don't know, something just as far as the way TSM is approaching their fights is it's a little underwhelming right now. And
not to be unfair to TSM right now, is we're going to get a kind of similar circle to what we saw last time, just with the, let's be honest, a little bit more water.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just a little. It's fine. We're kind of talking a lot about TSM just due to the expectations from them. And we were kind of being, let's be honest, with Space Station's last ending, people are having some high hopes for them. But we do kind of have like this position where we see it's TSM, Dodge, and Space Station Gaming all clumped pretty close to each other. And so whenever we're talking about TSM, it can kind of be said about what's going on with all three of the teams.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. Dodge as well is a team that we, especially after PCS4, my goodness, they played so well.
Yeah.
And Vegas was super online for that event. I still think Vegas has showed up for this as far as getting like some good knocks and shots in, especially when he got his hands on that AWM. It's very dangerous with that weapon. But yeah, Dodge has been a little underwhelming as well. And as far as TSM FTX, yeah, I'm going to rip into them as much as I want to. I've basically been given the free pass because of how much support I've given. Purdy told me. But yeah, they're just not playing well right now. And I'm going to call them out on it.
Look, crypto's bouncing back, TSM FTX. That's your whole thing right now. You're about the FTX, man. Go and bounce back as well. There's still opportunities for them. Whenever we look, though, it should be noted that this is a very Akreshe-friendly circle, as they are pretty separated out, running in that loot area just to the north of, I believe it was Quarry, where we saw them. And that means that they can regroup into a pretty strong position that they just won from last time.
They can, and depending on where this circle goes, I mean, their spread is very good as well, because they could potentially just go, as you said, anywhere they want. If they decide they wanted to play a little more for the north, they can. They can actually do a split with God Compound and the compound to the southwest of it in the swamp. I mean, there's a lot of options for them. And the fact that there's only realistically one team, even close, and that's just one member of 303 and Stone Storm around them, yeah, I imagine Akreshe, with the way they've been playing as well yesterday and so far today, they probably will take a very advantageous position and look to pressure some teams off rotation. So we'll have to see.
The circle itself is very LATAM favored. Whenever we look at it, that they're the only ones that are in it right now, with Purdy and Alo, but they're just kind of in the circle, and we know that they're going to rotate soon. For a lot of you guys, I know that you might not be familiar with some of these teams if you've been watching North America for a long time and coming into the English broadcast. You're like, who is this? Akreshe, you've probably bounced into them, but we got a couple of very interesting facts the ESL people managed to get together. This is the one that stood out the most to me, though. VHZ is a kite enthusiast. Like, that's the way he likes to chill, is just like go out and yes, like not like kiting and whenever you're playing a video game, as in like wind
like
and throw up a kite and play with a kite. Yeah.
Dude, I actually haven't kited in quite a long. It's
a long
been
time.
Many moons since I've kited. But kiting is fun, man. I think that's kind of cool. I wonder what kind of kites he enjoys.
I know. Now I'm very curious about this. Like, does he have like those huge mammoth ones, you know, that I'm talking about? Like, that are like technically like 5 kites all in like intertwined, or is it just like the normal triangle Charlie Brown style that you just throw out there and they just catch some wind?
Dude, I wouldn't mind like a dragon kite, dude. That'd be kind of cool.
I know. I always wanted one of those as a kid. You know, like with the tail and like little streamer coming off of it.
Yeah. Except I want mine to actually shoot fire out of its mouth.
See, I always end up with like the Dollar General special ones. You know what I mean? Like you throw them up there, and then whenever they like land the first time, they just explode.
Sometimes it just be like that. As we see the Sonics starting to rotate in here, that's a neat fact though. That's kiting. Never would have thought.
I now kind of want to see him kite somebody in the game. You know, just like slowly and steadily move ahead, force the team to follow them as they go.
You've been playing way too many MMOs.
I always play the MMOs. That's the way it goes. I'm all about battle royales and MMOs, man. We got Sonics, though, right now. Kind of looking around. Not a lot of big movements coming through. Fairly similar to what we saw last time. But Akreshe was still holding a very wide split. Looks like they're kind of leaning into a little bit more of a 2-1-1 with 2 along Quarry, and the other 2 up closer to the compound. That is the only way I tend to describe it is the old Tempo Storm area.
Are you talking about the area where the 2 members are, VHC and KSH? Yeah, it's God Compound. That's what we call it.
But see, here's the problem in PUBG. Everything is the God compound. There's like 36 God compounds.
Yeah, but that's like the real one.
It's not the one that's going to be north of Razak that's got the multiple stories on it that overlooks everything?
I don't think anyone's ever called that one. Just trust, okay? Hypok called it that as well. Just trust us, okay? Just trust us. That's the one.
I trust you guys.
Now, meanwhile, looking at rotations, I mean, the interesting thing about this circle, even though it's very similar to what we saw in the last game, even though it is a little further south with more water in it, is that most of these teams are actually centering up. So if this does hard shift, which I can only imagine 1 out of the 8 most likely will, it will create a lot of stress for the teams that are currently in the center of the circle, or whatever maybe new center of wherever the shift is. So look for somewhat of a bloodbath, because this is getting very compact in the center. More so than last game. I would be so
sad, Godspeed, if that happened. Just so sad if this hard shift.
So sad.
Just let me flip through the script here and see, is it going to happen? Maybe. Well, we'll just have to see.
I can just message Prim, just ask him to just give us a really messed up circle.
Dodge in a little bit of trouble, though, as it's going to be Young Kings that get the vision onto him. Molotov's coming in. That could be quite strong. Finna going to have to retreat from position, but not a lot of different angles to easily retreat from, and that's going to be Flux that finds it, and I don't know. Lampalot looks like he may have an idea on how he wants to come in and provide support on this one, but this could be problematic as Young King's trying to make the push. Support's going to be coming in from Hello Senpai, though, to slow him down just a touch. How many more throwables do they got as now Smokes have to go back over towards their teammate to provide a little bit more support. Dodge trying to rush over to Finna's position and see if maybe they can get this. It does look like Young Kings has had to stop.
Yep.
So there might be an opportunity depending on how Young Kings opts into playing this.
Meanwhile, though, Sonics has actually gotten in a fight with SSG, and it looks like there's been a knock, and Mime's actually been eliminated. SSG now with the opportunity to potentially take out another member of Sonics, as they are quite split, actually.
This could work
situation for Tig.
But it is Tig off to the side, so he kind of counts as two people, right?
Well, the thing is Tig was at the compound, I believe, initially, and that spray shrimps. Okay, so he's going to find it, and Tig actually with a beautiful off angle here really could spoil SSG. We'll have to see that.
Tig coming in for it, gets a little bit of damage, but Keenan retaliates on the other side of it. Space Station Gaming loses another one. Throwables now starting to come out. Keenan's taking a ton of damage onto this one. Tig goes down, Shrimsy's down. H-Win, the last one up right now, as this has just been mutual assured destruction between both of these squads. Roth doing a little bit of a retreat away from this one right now. Looks like H-Win has vision onto it, going for the spray in, gets him to about half life. Now waiting for the peaks across, taps it in just a little bit more. Roth knows the fact that he is in trouble right now as it's going to be Space Station trying to get a little bit more of a retreat, but not going to get it. The cost was high, but Sonics do manage to win.
The cost was devastating. It's just Quinn left alive, and Roth trying to go for a little cheeky peek there before his heal was over to try to spot where the reposition came from Quinn, and Quinn was just so ready. Very well played from Quinn, but again, unfortunate for both teams, which we have been talking about ad nauseum for the last couple days now, that we'd like to see something coming out for them. It's really been crippling for them. Meanwhile, TSM FTX, a team that I was harping on just earlier, with 4 up, so, you know, there's always a bright side, I guess.
And a wide split. It looks like they were trying to assault and get kills on teams as they rolled through, running the 2-1-1 just across the road, but I don't know if it's been too successful yet. 22 just rolled right through the thick of them, and, well, they did take some damage, didn't really lose anybody.
No, not really. And as we see Oath and No Chance as well rotating in here, this is all but a free rotation unless these two teams decide to really kind of get on each other. But it seems like that's not going to be the case. And the circle's actually shifted. I've just realized. Excuse me, it hasn't even shifted yet. It's about to shift. I'm all over the place, Matt. We're still in phase 1. We're still in phase 1. I'm getting ahead of myself.
We're seeing squad wipes in phase 1. It's been a while since that's happened, so we're all thrown off by the timings. No worry. No Chance, though. Does look like they want to harass Oath, but Oath is one of these teams that you don't really want to harass. Snaker's rolling through. Cable trying to get it down. Finally does manage to take down a reload, but a little bit problematic. Looking off the distance, it's still just a roaming Snakers. Trying to see if maybe he can get a little bit more out of it, but doesn't look like he wants to get too much. Instead, going to go back up the hillside, be content. Circle does shift to the north, but not super heavy. Means a lot of teams are still going to be inside the safe zone, except for poor old gas cans down in Ferry Pier.
Yeah, but even gas cans, I mean, if they really wanted to, they can scout their way in on the south, or they can do something of a wide rotation here on the east. Oath losing 2, though, that is actually really less than ideal. In a fight that I'm not even sure they really had to stop to try to take with No Chance. So that's going to be 2 members down, and Oath currently, I mean, at the very least, they have a win. If they can get some kills here, that'd be really huge. Just pump up that score a little bit, as they only have 11 kills going into day 2.
Yeah, and while they do have the chicken dinner, they need to be very aware of the fact that if anybody that is chasing them all the way down into 13th place gets a win, they will lose the positioning that they're presently in. So No Chance. Oath still a little bit back and forth. As you can see, it looks like a little bit of leapfrog with the Oath players as they just kind of wait and try to cover each other just every step of the way. Kickstart's going to do a little bit of a stop, but this is a...
I actually like this from No Chance. They're basically stalking Oath right now. They know that they're 2 members down, and as a full 4-man, I'm pretty sure... I think Cable might have seen Kickstart actually stop at this compound. He's looking for the vehicle to appear on the other side as he was driving from right to left. But yeah, I'm pretty sure they know Kick is here. Especially, well, now they definitely know Kick is here as he lands a headshot onto Cable. But I'm curious if they're going to commit to this. They don't really need to, but if they wanted to wipe out the team, they could.
See, Oath on the other side of this, though, realize the fact that they have an opportunity. They're like, okay, well, we've got the positioning. They have to come through us. Let's see if maybe we can get some kills and some revenge for our teammates that we have lost. not coming together too strong just quite yet, as Snakers doesn't have the angle to provide support. He's playing a little bit further towards the north, but Kickstart putting in a hefty amount of damage just by his lonesome.
And Luke, you want to talk about stalking? Look at this. He knows Honey Badger is here. Up at this radio tower right next to the swamp. Does he take the shots?
Slowly creeping up. Dignitas wrapped it up to the north positioning. TSM very upset because they wanted it. But just Luke's mere presence starting to startle poor old Honey Badger. To the north, Troglodytas, though, is coming into a position, but with the way that the hillside is set up, they really can't see what's going on as we go back again to the No Chance Oath. And no, Kickstart! He managed to right the vehicle. He flipped it for just a second, but it's fine. It's fine. No Chance, it seems like they have goals right now, and Oath is being herded into Fiumba's position, so they have to be very, very careful on how they make this approach. Looks like they have a read on what's going on, and do manage to find the one spot and the gap that they can try to encroach right through this one. While they're going to take some damage, they're not going to bump right into one of the players. So they managed to pass the first stage of the gauntlet, but guess what? VTS is just going to be on the other side of it, now starting to rain in damage of their own, and Honey Badger, he had a little bit of a feeling something was going awry, and he does go down. It's actually going to be Kill Demo from Troglodytas that steals that one away.
Man, that's got to be so frustrating for Luke because he spent so much time sitting there waiting for the right time to shoot, waiting to get the knock. He even did the majority of the day. Wait a second.
Like this. Not like this.
Oh, no.
Oh. Live by the shack, die by the shack.
That's got to be so frustrating for Oathman to just be stalked by a team from the onset of that rotation in Circle 1 all the way down to then, and just to be wiped by another team and Veritas just waiting.
We heard you liked a little. There was a little bit too much north in the last circle, so this time we went a little bit further south. So that way,
what do you mean? This is the same
just a little
circle, man. This is the same.
It is kind of similar.
I don't want to hear it's a little more south nonsense.
I mean, yeah, it's exactly the same. Let's be real.
I mean, it's mostly the same, yeah.
Looks like VTS going to go ahead and learn from what's going on inside that last round. Going to get the inside track into the position where we saw Akreshe playing. They do have one of their members that's already made it in that point as Akreshe is going to start to make their move. Sonics, you can see poor old H-Win in the position that didn't go so well for them last time, but hopefully he can be a little bit more stealthy all by his lonesome. Troglodytas doing a little bit of destruction derby and slowing down their own teammates. Got to be a little bit cautious about that one as they go through. Dignitas going to be in the thick of them as they go, but Akreshe having to be a little bit cautious as TSM now looks like they want to take over the territory that's being played from, and narrowly VHZ misses TSM making the approach in the wall, providing a little bit too much cover for anything Akreshe wants to try to do.
Oh, Purdy's got to get inside. He knows the nades are coming, which is why he's squirming. And wait a second, actually some help coming in. Oh!
Wow. Close range, TSM is strong. We've talked about it before in the past. LFP looks like he's at least trying to get a flush or something out of this one. He's pushing right into the jaws of the giant right now, seeing if maybe he can get something, but not going to be able to connect with the Molotov. Now finding himself in a very awkward position. Troglodytas did find themselves in a firefight with Dignitas on the other side of this one, as it's going to be Troglodytas that walked away with a ton of kills regarding that. Dignitas less beneficiary inside of that one. Punich just hiding out to the north.
There was actually a really... Oh, nope, that's actually the wrong room. So TSM is going to recover at the very least 3 members up. LFP getting shot by 22, who's pretty much the team that did a lot of the damage to the remaining members of Akreshe when they had 4 up. Will now just have to be a solo.
This is a little bit of a problem for both teams, though, as Troglodytas is starting to get a little bit more control to the south, 22 to the southwest around their position. LFP is being a problem that's slowing them down. Do note the last member up for Dignitas has managed to spot out where Exex is, and looks like he might be trying to set up a little bit of a 1v1 vengeance situation for his team as well. LFP, though, really can't look around anywhere. Every single time he looks around an angle, there's either a TSM member or a 22 member. Looks like he's just going to go ahead and lean into this one, and now getting VS on the other side. There's nowhere to go.
Yes.
Every single angle has a team, and finally we're going to see Akreshe going down. Now a little bit more of an opportunity for these other teams to try to pick up a chicken dinner.
And that's exactly what I wanted to see from TSM FTX. They are on the edge. Yes, they're still in the circle, but they need to figure out what's going on around them, and they need to make sure that they have a play for the next shift. And when you have a player essentially playing spoiler in a compound, it makes it very difficult to do that effectively. So the fact that they decided to push him, specifically because they knew where he was at that time, was exactly the right play. And sure, you had like 3 other teams helping him out, so it wasn't the worst.
Oh, H-Win doing a little bit of Mission Impossible over here. Does end up with a decent spot with the way that the circle shifts, again going down into quarry positioning. Looks like it's just going to be quarry proper this time around. And man, this is a messy place for a fight. And there you go, Punich trying to get a little bit more. Does get the knock onto it, but here comes support. He's got to get this flush fast and does manage to get it. Look at all the vehicles he has to work with. Problem is, low on ammo, low on health. Troglodytes rolling in, tries to get a sneaky spot, but Rusty Zero has a read on it.
And there we go from Trog. Finally, again, seeing a little more aggression from a team that we had praised, especially in PCS4, for being so aggressive, that we've kind of been missing that from them. So to see them kind of just taking point and really starting to take good position and being a little more proactive than they have in the last couple of games, at least yesterday, is a good sign. Meanwhile, Huynh is just hanging out. You know what I mean? He doesn't really need to, and he shouldn't really be doing anything. I mean, this is exactly what he needs to do. Just survive as long as possible. If he can get a spoiler knock here or there, great. If not, I mean, you know, at least get a kill if he can.
Let Dodge defend him up right now, buy him a little bit more space. You never know. We have seen Sonics manage to solo up in the past. Yumba, though, this is not the angle that you want to approach from. H1, you can see a little bit nervous as he hears the firefight starting to break out around him. Yumba says, okay, looks like we're going to manage to cut through that one narrowly. The rest of them, Silzen leading the way off to the side with MA coming up back in the same position for him. Gonna send it right in the middle of Corey.
The clown fiesta that is Corey, get ready.
Oh, yep. And keep in mind, we do have a strong TSM up, and we talk about close range fights. This is pretty much all close range whenever you end up in the center of Corey.
Finna, unfortunately didn't land any of those shots. On top of that, got punished for it, but he can back up to the rest of his team. As now TSM try their hand at rotating on the top of Corey here.
Oh, here we go.
Oh my goodness,
Cars catching airtime, getting the roll in, doesn't matter, it just means more cover. Look, perfect
calculated
parking job.
Calculated. We lost Purdy though. No. Oh, we really lost
one managed to
Purdy.
make it in. Troglodyte says, hey, I have an idea. It's the exact same idea that Alo had. He's going to jump out, but there's going to be 2 members for TSM. They're going to try to slow this one down just a little bit.
Oh, he's burning!
Alo's burning to death, though. Luke doesn't have the angle. And boy, this is turning into a mess, and I love it.
And that's really unfortunate, man. I really feel like at the very least, TSM could have, at least 2 of those members could have crashed together, and that way kind of avoid something like that happening. But I didn't see what happened to Luke's vehicle. Maybe he got thrown off, but yeah, again, another disappointing game for TSM. FTX so far. I mean, they have 1 member up in Luke. I'm not going to count them out, as we saw how much damage Penta was able to do last game. But yeah, it's not a good start for the day.
I mean, Dodge is in a very strong position for the circle. It should be noted that 22, No Chance, and Versus are all getting lined up against each other right along the edge of the zone. It's going to be Versus that rolled right up in between the 2 of them, but it looks like 22 is going to step up and try to get a piece of what's happening. No Chance going to go ahead and die at that stage of it, but now have to be careful as Versus are going to find themselves with an opponent right back behind him as 22 Esports has rolled up into a very sneaky position and just trying to assault them right on the edge of the zone. New circle does pop and still leaning in Corey.
And 22 has kind of been a thorn in a lot of different team sides. They've just been able to kind of sit here and just kind of turret away. This is a potential res. It's a very ambitious smoke grenade. I'm curious if it actually made it there, but they might actually be able to get up Roggy Wow.
This is interesting on both sides, to say the least. There is going to be a crate that lands right over there for Versus, so maybe they can get something out of that one. Be beneficial for them.
Huynh is struck.
Well, gets the knock on 1. Let's see how patient he's going to be. That is a ton of flashbangs coming out. Looks like it is going to stir them back just a touch. Oh, look at that. It's going to be Silzen Fiumba providing a little bit of extra support into this. H1 should be aware of the team that he is fighting at the time, paying attention to what's going on right now. Should have an opportunity for himself. Spots out 1 that's going across the side of this one. Feeds over the information, trying to get the spray in, but that is a very weakened Dodge. Bouncing from point to point. I love the read on how H1 is playing this one, making him dance to the tune that he is trying to set up at the time. Looks like he has a read on how this is going to play out, seeing if maybe he can bait them around one of the 2 corners at the time, but nobody from Dodge is biting. Creeping in, might have a read. Does Lampalot have an idea on what's going on with this at the time? They are face to face, but the smoke is denying any vision on what's going on right now. H1 should start to hear the pitter patter of feet around him and trying to set if he's going to push this any further in. Looks like Versus is also going to roll back in position around this. Have to play it carefully. Man. H1 knows the longer that this goes on, the higher chance that both of these members are going to be rezzed. So it's more and more problematic for him, but he doesn't have any damage throwables to work with. It's all about gunplay and control right now, and he's waiting for it. Gets his spraying away, gets another knock, and the dance continues back and forth. Here's the footsteps around, spots out another one, goes for the spray, trying to go for the flush, now sneaking around the other side of it. See if maybe he can continue to do-si-do his way around this, try to pick up another member, goes for the flush into it, stepping away. H-Win not going down without a fight, afraid that somebody might have flanked around back behind him, but it's just going to be Finna right now, trying to go for the res back behind on Hello Senpai, who did get knocked that second time. Is he going to opt into going for the play, or is he going to wait for them to reveal themselves?
I mean, Quinn just ran circles around Dodge. In fact, he's going to get another knock, and that's going to be a flush. The smokes, the plays were so impressive, and I'm very curious how much utility Dodge actually had as far as lethal utility. There was not a single molly or grenade thrown.
H-Win is just playing them right now, making use of everything that's going on, and just demolishes Dodge by himself. Well, with a little bit of assistance.
He had a little bit of assist, but they got those. The thing is yes, there was an assist, but they got those reses, right? So he basically 1v4'd them. And that was
kind of 1v6'd them.
Yeah, I mean, that was ridiculously well played by Hwin, and honestly, that was a big throw, in my opinion, from Dodge. That was a very big throw from Dodge, and that was very well played from Hwin.
Oh, and look at the reward. The circle goes to the east. Gascan's going to be in a strong position. Remember, Gascan's sitting on 2 chicken dinners right now, so in a successful spot right now. It looks like they're going to try to step away from 22 Esports, who, like you've been talking about, Godspeed, is just harassing every single team that moves around them.
The crazy thing is they only have 1 kill, but I guarantee you they've probably done the most damage this game.
It definitely feels like it. They have just been pumping out numbers on every single person that moves around them. Should be noted that 303 is also going to have a high ground point that they can play from.
Nikos gets a free kill.
Hey, thanks.
How convenient is that? Oh, I love those.
If it's there,
as a player,
take it,
you
right?
love those. Oh yeah, you take those all day long. I'm not hating it all. I'm just saying it's just, oh look, a piece of candy. So Nikos is going to find one. Go ahead.
This is an awkward circle, and we still have Luke and H-Win that are inside this as solos, and H-Win's kind of maneuvering around, not quite content to just sit on and rest on his laurels at the time. Young Kings looks like they might be opting for an approach that's going to put them around 22 Esports, but you can kind of see the situation that we're looking at right now. Do note that Fiumba is not inside the safe zone, is going to have to continue going either east or maybe try to flank around a little bit to the northeast.
The problem is, if they try to go south, they potentially could climb up onto 303, but that is very difficult on top of the fact that they'll be seen from Versus and potentially even one of the teams here on the hill.
That's like trying to get away from the wildebeest as Mufasa climbing up that cliff right there. It's just going to be 303 a scar up on the top of it, but Young Kings and 1FPS also has a high ground advantage, and boy, 22 Esports just instantly went away.
Young Kings with 8 kills. They have also, if I'm being honest, been one of the teams that's been more impressive towards me as far as being more proactive. It hasn't necessarily always worked for them, but I can see the wheels turning. You know what I mean? I can see the idea of what they're trying to do in a lot of these games, even though they do sometimes go out early. So I really appreciate this play coming out from Young Kings. It's very much a high risk, high reward, but right now the reward is very good. 8 kills, good position in the circle, potentially game-winning position. So far, Young Kings impressive.
And a pretty decent chunk of loot. I mean, there wasn't much cost in going for that fight. So
Not at all.
anything that they pick up right now is just extra gravy to work with. They do have the hillside that's going to provide them a little bit of cover unless Gascans decide to peek their head over the tops of it. Everything's kind of calming down a little bit as Fiumba did manage to find a way to kind of sneak their way through this one, but has an idea on where Luke 12 is going to be at as well. As you can see, he is going to get taken down. Now it's starting to settle down just a little bit as both Versus and Fiumba are shooting at nothing.
Depending on what this circle does, by the way, it's very possible Hwin wins this game off of those warehouses.
The way he just played that, possible.
I'm not even just talking about Hwin as a player, because obviously, but just the way that this circle is playing out, it's almost as if the teams around him are protecting him just based off positioning. And he just got delivered a crate, which you probably won't see, but I'm just going to point it out anyways.
I mean, gosh, there's so many moving parts in what's going on right now, as it's kind of 2 different teams at the top of the hills where we've got Gascans and 303 looking down in the valley of all the other teams that are just trying to survive at this point. See that the harassment's starting to come through in Young King's direction. All those tools and, I guess, body armors and things like that are laying around now going to start to be a little bit more valuable as they're taking a lot of damage.
Yeah, and Hwin wisely is starting to look at the back of his little compound here.
Now.
I mean, he just has so much vision too. You know what I mean? Like as a solo as well, I'm sure he got some utility off of the members of Dodge he was able to take out, and now he can just kind of just harass and potentially act like he's bigger than he is, in the sense that he could make it seem like there's more than one person in that warehouse.
And The Warehouse is in the safe zone, but just barely. Young Kings just going to go ahead and send it by and get a very strong center control point that nobody was wanting to go for. So getting rewarded being the first team to move that time. Gas Cans was kind of stalking it as well as 303. But here's the problem, Young Kings. You are now directly in between the two strongest squads as far as numbers at the time. And you've got the center point. That means everybody is looking your direction.
Everyone will slowly have to come in. This could work out well for them as well. They might be able to get some knocks, clean up some kills maybe, as Hwin is no longer in a position, unfortunately, to really just kind of sit by and take his time. But
what you got for us, H-Win? He's got a plan. He's got goals. Smokes have plumed. He's going to start going for a little bit of a play here. Looks like he might be trying to use it. But look, it's the moment that 303 is now starting to take the fight with Fiumba. So might have an opportunity to roll through and does manage to make it into a landfall point. Looks like he's just going to go ahead and send it right into 303's position, but doesn't see them. Looks like Versus is going to be able to hold down that point. Sorry, I thought it was 303 from that. It's green and green, guys.
Versus,
There's a lot of green. I'm sorry.
I'll be honest, I probably wouldn't have checked that first floor either, because no one really plays the first floor, especially on that side. So it's unfortunate Hwin went down, but he did a hell of a lot of work for his team as far as getting kills. And they're still, I mean, Sonics, although they're out now, they're first in kill still. So again, it's just that one win they can't seem to find.
So here's the question, Godspeed. When you have two Obi-Wans with the high ground, just going against a whole bunch of Vaders in the low ground, which one of the two Obi-Wans in the high ground wins?
I'd say the one with the higher ground. Which
the
right now
ground.
would be,
so in this case 303, they've got those couple blocks.
Yeah, the highest of grounds. Yeah, I'd say 303. I mean, Fiumba though, they have a lot to work with as far as cover. They have a ridge and they have a few of those boxes and crates, so they are not in the worst position as far as. Yeah, they also have the building in front of them. Realistically, what I want Fiumba to do is just push forward, get rid of VS, and then take control of that building. It's a tall task, especially with other teams looking down on them, but that would be the essentially game-winning play for Fiumba.
And I'm sorry, chat. Yes, I said Vader, and at that point it was Anakin. Whatever. I know you guys are already going to come after me about it. Nerd cred lost a little bit. Sorry. But now let's see.
I mean, he was technically Vader. I mean, he was. Yeah, he was Vader at that point.
Was,
right?
No,
he was. I'm pretty sure he was Lord Vader at that point.
I mean, he just didn't have all of like the stuff to him yet. He didn't have the
I mean, he wasn't burned to a crisp yet.
So whenever I'm looking at this, it's all about Fiumba and maybe how they might be pushing into VS. Gas Cans is going to have a little bit of a rough move. 303 does have a little bit of their high ground in play, but that's a scary position to play from. So Gas Cans looks like they might try to wrap into this when 303 has the read onto it. Junior going for a little bit of a spray. Adam taking a ton of damage, and look, it's going to be Storm that pops up with one of them, but that's all they lost in that approach. Whoa! That car flipped, and Hikerman, that one was close.
That one was close. They did manage to get underneath 303, but you can imagine the amount of utility. This is the time actually for Fiumba to push forward as well.
Everybody's on fire for Gas Cans right now, quite fitting, but Greg Shot does manage to creep up his way, and looks like he's going to continue to harass this one.
He needs to.
He has a good idea on where it's at. This grenade could be huge, depending on how it bounces. Lands right on
baby!
top of him. 303 and a ton of trouble. Stone Storm's going to go down, and Greg Shot walks into a beautiful position. Gas Cans managed to reset, and this is big for them.
Greg Shot may have just won them the game off of that grenade. That was amazing.
I mean, everybody else is fighting it out. We've got Fiumba that's leaning in right on top of Versus at the time. Young Kings is in a position where it looks like they have an idea on what's going on with Gas Cans, but that's the new threat. Fiumba running in, does spot out VS's position, and finally Versus goes down. Fiumba now has to be very careful, though, as it could find themselves in a little bit of a problematic spot. The circle does go into the center point after this, and that's Young Kings territory.
Oh, this is what I wanted Fiumba to do, and they did it beautifully. They took out the team without even losing a member, and now it just comes down to Young Kings and Gas Cans, who I really like Gas Cans' position, if I'm being honest. They have a lot of cover to work with, even though they're not in, yes, they're on the edge. They potentially just need one knock here. The problem for Young Kings is they're now sandwiched. As you called much earlier, 3 or 4 circles ago, they are in the middle of the teams trying to get to center, so could be rough. All this utility, the smokes, is going to block most of the vision. As you can see, they have one member playing outside the tower, which is wise, but the vehicle explosion is going to take out Publix, and now Young Kings are in a world of trouble.
Fiumba has been harassing them from the north, and they drew a lot of their attention that direction. Gas Cans finding opportunities, and it is just throwables galore that's putting in work. On the other side of it, Silzen doing some work of his own, as it looks like Young Kings, who found themselves in a good spot, getting sandwiched between 2 major threats. Gas Cans, though, realizing the fact that the opportunity is starting to play off around the Wizard Tower, instead looking back into the high ground, seeing if maybe they can find an angle onto Fiumba.
And Gas Cans with 7 kills and a very good position are just looking so strong in this event so far. I mean, there's really nothing else to say. Whatever they've changed, whatever Greg Shot has brought into this team is been nothing short of amazing.
Again, so many kills in the work that they're putting in. Look at how close they managed to get into this Wizard Tower at this stage. Just absolutely no fear, and that's going to be Nico's getting a hit onto Publix to knock him yet again. So more and more problems mounting up for the Young Kings as they've now separated onto 2 different floors. It means the fact that they only really have 1 member up at a time. Looks like Publix might be trying to crawl out, get a little bit more information. Hikerman's even going to deny that one out. So it's all going to be about how Fiumba makes the move on this one. 1 member of Young Kings, though, is going to be able to survive off the point, and it's just going to be all a matter of the blue zone forcing everybody together.
Hikerman has the opportunity to do the most damage here to Fiumba, and if he can at least get 1 knock, that opens up the door for Gas Cans to get even more aggressive. So you can see they might be doubling up here on this angle. Those flashes are good. Beautiful from Hikerman.
Now he's got the high ground, but he has to be careful. Young Kings comes alive to the other side of this one. Nikos has got to play it. You can see everybody's coming in from the point on top of this one. It's going to be high ground and high ground, looking back down into Fiumba's position.
Flash.
Blue doing a ton of damage, trying to jump down into this point. Gonna go ahead and go down to that one. So with this, it's a little bit of a dance around, and there we go. It's going to be Fiumba getting the round victory.
You know, even though that last member of Young Kings did go down, that flash was beautiful. He actually almost made it out and could have potentially got a knock. Yeah,
Almost
but man, amazingly played to Fiumba, and amazingly played to the Gas Cans, to be completely honest. And huge shout out, by the way, to Win. I mean, let's be honest. That was.
So are we winning now, or is Quarry starting to be a little bit more favorable now that you've shifted into the caster style?
No, I still hate Quarry. It's not going to change. That's not going to change. I'm still not a big fan of Quarry as a player or caster, but you know what? That was a very exciting game, so I'm not going to deny that.
See, just taking the thunder out of it. But Fiumba, though, I mean, you got to give it to him. That was. Yes. There were so many hurdles to overcome for every one of those teams that managed to make it into that stage. Nobody was handed a circle in that situation. You fought tooth and nail for it, and they do walk away the victors. And let's be honest, a very desperate situation. I thought that Gaskins had the better positioning around that, and with Young Kings having that window to look down into them, they had to deal with a lot of different variables and managed to handle them quite efficiently.
And Young Kings, to be fair, also, they did kind of put a lot of their focus onto Gas Cans, because Gas Cans were the team that were being more aggressive onto them, especially with the nades and peeking the windows. So, yeah, it makes sense that also on that second level, Young Kings was able to just kind of get the double knock onto Gas Cans and seal their fate there. But regardless, I agree. It was a very hard fought circle for pretty much all the teams that were left in the end there. Even Gas Cans had to make sure that they were holding their edge there on the eastern side before it went full hard into the quarry. So, and yeah, again, TSM FTX, man, something seems very disjointed with this team, and that is something that I don't think I've ever said about TSM FTX. It's just something is not clicking.
Just and then show it again. Just show all of it. Just show.
I'm not even going to talk. I'm not even going to talk about it.
It's beautiful.
Just let it happen. Just let it happen, Dodge. Look at that clean knock.
Add in gun sounds now. I mean, I am just
gonna get the other one here. Dude, beautiful shots, dude.
Always impressed with Sonics and how they play that. Look at the flash bangs coming through, the throwables bouncing around. And this is the beginning of the Young Kings assault to get into that position.
Yeah.
And you can see that there was fighting everywhere at this
Young
point.
Kings were not just chilling in that Wizard Tower for like 4 circles. They absolutely made sure that they fought their way into that. And then even Gas Cans, I love these pre-smokes, making sure they had an angle to get in. Unfortunate that they lost Adam, but as you said, if that's the only thing they lost going into that, oh, that vehicle almost ran over Hikerman. Yeah.
You know, Hikerman jumped out of that vehicle and was like near on, had to change his underwear.
Oh, he probably his life flashed before his eyes, but really it was Greg Shot that saved that for them. The grenades from Greg Shot, incredibly well placed. I mean, that was dead on, is what saved them from potentially getting wiped there, because 303, by all intents and purposes, should have been able to pour over and just kind of wipe out Gas Cans. But yeah, Greg Shot, huge MVP for them in that game.
And again, I really do have to say that we were seeing a lot of Latin America being very strong in there. It feels like it's a lot of Latin America, Gas Cans, and H-Win from that round, to say the least. And I do love to see the constant growth and the escalation of skill that we're seeing coming out from the Latin American squads. Fiumba walking away with 8 kills, Young Kings with 11 inside that one, not getting any chicken dinner though. And then Gas Cans walking away with 8, and Sonics walking away with 8 off of a big performance from H-Win.
And more importantly, I think we saw much more signs of life from Troglodytes than we've seen, at least yesterday, and which was really important, right? Because they were a team that we had all been talking about as far as, you know, teams we're excited for, especially ones that weren't necessarily from the NA, specifically the US, you know, our region. LATAM has been showing up huge, especially with the end of that game. Young Kings, you had Fiumba, you know what I mean? And this is what we want to see. Still, I think Trog has been a little disappointing as far as how much hype we had behind them going into this, but we still have 2 games of Miramar left, at the very least today.
There's a lot of opportunities for, I guess, some teams that we came into this event really expecting to perform. I mean, we still haven't seen, whenever we started on the analyst desk, which I was on, the very first segment was talking about several teams. Most notably, we were talking about TSM, we were talking about Sonics, we were talking about Troglodytes, we were talking about Space Station Gaming. Oops. Right now is kind of what it feels like. All of them are strong teams. We're just not seeing it really go their way yet.
I'm stuck on TSM FTX, man. It just doesn't look like they're a team that they're playing. Like, it just doesn't seem like things are happening cohesively for whatever reason. Like, even that split between Alo and Luke, maybe that was like a survival play. Hey, try to just make sure we don't get wiped out completely. Like, that could have been circumvented if they potentially would have played that together. And that's just the situation I'm harping on. But overall, they just seem very disjointed, and I don't know why.
Playing together is the key of PUBG, and playing together is the key of Tego as well. You guys asked, and PUBG listened. Right now, you can see the fact that there is a new 8x8 map available to play on PUBG right now, Tego. Make sure you guys hop on, and we are going to take a quick break. We will see you guys in just a few minutes.
Joey, wake up. I want to play some PUBG, man. Joey, wake up, man. Let's
Yeah, I'm
play
ready.
some games.
I'm ready to play some PUBG, man.
Hello, everybody. We are back once again for day number 2. 2 games in the bag, and so far it has been LATAM domination as they get back-to-back wins. One for Akreche, and now Fiumba going to be stepping up in a big way. And oh boy, where do we start, Hypoc? Cameron, where do we even begin? There's so many things that I want to say, and I feel like I'm going to get in trouble if I say them.
Oh, I'm interested to hear a couple of them.
Yeah, I'm really
if you
curious.
wouldn't mind
All
sharing at all with the rest of us.
All right. It doesn't look like North American teams are taking this seriously. I'll just say it straight up. It looks like they came into this thinking that LATAM was going to be just an easy roll, easy top 8, and now they're getting bodied for it. And, you know, a number of, you could pick out different plays here and there to really kind of point that out. And I mean, even, look, H-Win doing what he did to Dodge was just embarrassing.
I mean, I've never wanted to unsee something as much as I did after I watched. I mean, honestly, we saw the first circle post, and it was almost like, okay, well, it's going to be a similar setup, but there was just. I feel like the start of that, just there were a few teams that were just making desperation plays, right? Similar circle, maybe make a mad dash and try and get some kind of positional advantage. Seeing as you know, the previous game you could argue was decided purely on positioning, right?
Fair, yeah. I mean, look, am I being too brutal here, Cameron? Do you think?
Not a lot. I do, for this particular game, I think Quarry is an incredibly difficult area to make it into. In fact, Fiumba, as we can see here on the head-to-head, the fact that they were able to get all 4 members deep into the dead center of Quarry was a shock to me. And we saw just how well they were able to deal damage to a bunch of other teams around them. But outside of them, like any other team that tried to go in got completely decimated. So I wasn't really shocked to see a number of
gas cans.
even North American teams.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's your gas cans. They came in really late, though. They focused on trying to control the edge. The Greg Shot had that amazing nade on the high ground onto 303. So they definitely played a little later on into the game. But a lot of other teams like TSM having to make a desperation move to try and find some place. I don't want to put too much on them for this particular game. However, if you look at the first 6 games of this event so far, I think Oath is a really key example of this. They have one win. They won the very first game, but they have 11 kills up till now. That is not the Oath that any of us expected.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a rough go for him. Maybe I am being too brutal. Maybe I am being too much of a jerk here. And maybe it is just that LATAM has stepped up in a way that a lot of these teams weren't expecting. Maybe the progression from the last time these guys faced off has been bigger than anybody was expecting. Maybe that's the case.
I think your main point still stands, though, is that North America can no longer continue to think that they can come in and bully the other sub-region of Latin America for free.
Yeah. Ibach?
Yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting conversation to have. Again, we talk about all the expectations coming into this kind of regional crossover, right? And it was the big concerns were, you know, some of these LATAM teams play very fast and loose, and that kind of goes against the grain in terms of a lot of those middle of the pack teams in terms of NA. I guess historically we look back at previous PCS seasons, but I think now where things have kind of stabilized, it's almost like the games where we see certain teams like TSM and Sonics, again, not to harp on them, but when they kind of make these uncharacteristic decisions, it's then, I mean, Godspeed made a really good point. It's like, how often do we see TSM, they either die as a team or they're doing one thing as a team that either goes right or wrong, right? And recently it seems like more often than not we're seeing them kind of, there's one last straggler or maybe a duo to try and come through the mid game, and it's things like that just feel really unorthodox in terms of what we expect teams to be doing. I
mean, I guess if nothing else, I guess the proper way to say it is maybe a little bit sloppier in terms of just general.
Hey, don't back
gameplay
down now. Whoa.
All I know
We're
is
4 minutes into the segment already. What?
all I know is I saw talk that from some players, who shall remain nameless, of the group stage was harder than the finals. Well, you know what? You don't get to say that when you're getting bodied in the finals. After you've won the finals, then you can come out and talk about how, oh yeah, the group stage was harder than the finals. Right now, you're getting absolutely embarrassed, and you got to start stepping up your play. There's so much on the line right now, Cam, in terms of PGC points and all that stuff. I mean, maybe this is the shot in the arm that they're going to need 2 days in.
Yeah, and Fumba, they're not stepping down. I'm not exactly sure how the PGC points translate over when roster moves are made, but this is a relatively new team. They have a couple of players that are coming over from Enrage that we mostly know of them, but they're coming in, swinging wildly. They had a couple of good moments yesterday. Their placements across the board are looking really good. They only have one, if I'm correct here, only one double-digit placement game. They finally get a win for themselves. That final fight between them and Gascans looked very, very strong on their end. Yes, they had a little bit of help from the last straggler of Young Kings, but still the fact that they were able to come in from the low ground of that 3-team final circle and finish that one out looked really, really solid.
Well, that being said, all these, a number of Latin American teams definitely stepping up. There are quite a few of them that are still kind of hanging out on the bottom of the leaderboard. But right now, it feels like anything goes. It feels like nothing is set in stone. Nothing is certain. No team fight can be predicted. I mean, H1 will go in the 1v4 against Dodge, proving that point more than effectively. But we are getting ready to head into game number 3, our first game on Miramar. 2 more games left to go, so let's throw it over to the casters. Matchroom, hey, Godspeed.
Thanks, guys, and yes, now we make our way over towards Miramar, and with the, chaos that Corey has been providing, it looks like Godspeed. Finally, no more Corey, so you should be happy.
Finally, no more Corey, simply because we're moving to a different map altogether. It is finally time for my favorite map, at the very least, Miramar. And I'm very excited just to see, 2 games left. Yes, we've been talking about how good the Latin American region has been and how impressed we've been with numerous teams. It's not just one team showing up for that region as well, or that sub-region, I should say. But now, in the last 2 games of today, especially going into tomorrow, which is the last day of the weekend, since we're doing 2 separate weekends, again, I really need to start seeing something from the teams that we've been talking about and harping on at this point. Space Station Gaming, TSM FTX. I don't really want to throw Sonics in there just because at the very least they're still first place in kills, so they're definitely not, they're not slouching. It's just they need to find the win, which again, I'm confident they will find at least one in the next 6 games. But yes, for TSM FTX, for Space Station Gaming, even Dignitas at this point, it's starting to look a little underwhelming. So hopefully they can make something happen.
Notice you left Dodge off of that list now. You think that the last approach by H-Win might have, furled their sails a little bit, and they might need a little bit of time to reset?
I just really feel like they should have killed Win. They should have won that, especially after they recovered. Like, I understand when in the mix of things they were getting pressured from other teams and they had knocks as well. But once they were 3 or 4 up, that should not have happened. But you know what? It did, and Win played them, so it's nothing else to say.
Well, with a very southern plane path, it looks like it could be problems for a couple of our teams. We did see the MPL circle. If you guys are not familiar with the MPL circle, we got it like it felt every Miramar game in the MPL days. And that's just a very western circle where it's got a little bit of Monte Nuevo in it, just north of Valdemar.
Yeah. Those are those good circles.
This circle could feel familiar to that one. I mean, it's either that or Los Leones. I mean, I guess maybe we can get a Chumacera ending. I like Chumacera.
I would really love something not Los Leones or West Coast, simply because that's all we got yesterday. But you know what? Third time, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Third time's a charm, maybe? I don't know.
I don't have my magic powers right now. I don't get a read on where this was going. I'm hoping for Chumacera. Chumacera endings are fun. I like the fight on the multiple tiers. Of
Elevations,
Chumacera.
yeah. I mean, I love Chuma in church, obviously. You know that.
I got a feeling with that. Like, I was surprised you didn't come with me on the Chumacera. That's where you guys always used to drop.
Yeah, we had the Chuma drop. But the thing is fights around there necessarily aren't as exciting as it is looting there. But okay, so a little bit of a Pozo, Monty sort. Yeah, this is more or less an MPL circle.
It's a northern MPL circle.
Sure.
While we don't have water in the circle, guys, do note that the entirety of that raised area to the west is all unplayable. And so
correct.
It makes a interesting position to say the least, where I'm feeling like we're getting a Pozo field, Pozo Southern Hills ending off of this one.
I mean, yeah, for the most part, though, like a lot of these teams will be able to, at the very least, rotate into the first circle. I don't imagine we'll have too many shenanigans happening. Obviously, there hasn't really been any hot drops. Yes, we have 2 teams in Leonis, but let's be honest, that city could potentially foster 3 or 4 teams. So ultimately, yeah, this is going to be teams just taking their time, paying attention to where everyone is set up already. Obviously, Monty is a very hot button place to be in this circle where we currently find SSG. So really good circle position for the start for them. I just hope they're able to do something with it. And we've seen in the past, Matt, SSG loves to do these kind of aggressive splits, and it generally works for them. It's just consolidating and coming together at the late game has really been the issue for them. So we'll see what happens with SSG and Monty.
Speaking of nerd references, when we're looking at Troglodytes, Necro got his name from Lord of the Rings, if you didn't know that. So
I did not.
Shout out for that one. Versus, though, playing right along the edge of the zone right now. Looks like they're just going to go ahead and pick up all the cars to be theirs.
And looking at the map, yeah, there's been no significant movements or shifts. Again, a lot of these guys are just going to loot up. I do find it interesting, though, that because of the plane, how many teams are actually stacked on the southeast side of the circle. Normally, I think we see like 1 or 2 teams looting down there, but again, because you called the plane path was not very conducive for anyone trying to go north or to be honest, east. We actually might get a little bit of some issues coming down in the southeast part of that circle, depending on how many teams rotate in. If Akreshi decides to, which I wouldn't be surprised, maybe get a little aggressive on some rotation camps.
So whenever we look at the circle, we often talk about it being a very north-south rotation zone, just due to the way that the roads, the hills, because there's some very steep hills inside of there. Whenever it collapses into the west, because you were playing the MPL whenever we got the circle a lot, how do you navigate the circle? Because there are so many hurdles that are in front of you, being the hills, the paths. I mean, El Pozo itself. What are you looking at to find your successes in rotation?
I mean, for this specific circle, you generally want to get as much high ground as possible, just so you can, again, scout, see what's in front of you, like you were saying. Most rotations, as you said, yes, will be on the south and the north, but it's not uncommon for teams to just scout in towards the road actually leading out of Monty going east to see if there's anyone really holding that. There are a few compounds there that teams can camp, but generally there's enough terrain where you can kind of get around that and circumvent any issues or at least losing members. The other issue, or the other thing I will say, Matt, is that you have to remember we looted Chuma, so we were always in these circles. We didn't really have to rotate very much. And then obviously we had the Rumblers compound, which is where Kreshe is right under. So yeah, it's mostly, again, it's the same practices you'd use for a lot of circles, which is just making sure that you're doing proper scouting practices and things like that, and you're not just sending it unnecessarily, because you have so much time in these first circles to work with.
So you're saying it's a good day to be Space Station Gaming on Kreshe. Also looks like Sonics has the same ideas. They want to go to the exact same position that everybody else is already trying to play around. Space Station Gaming, with their position moving a little bit further north, is going to provide an opportunity for Sonics just to roll right into this position inside of Monte. So it looks like that's going to be where they're going to hang out at. As you can see that the airplane is going over. Kind of curious from where they're going to drop a present from heaven at. So it doesn't look like it's going to be over here. It's going to go way off to the north. It does look like it's going to go over there.
I really hope Gas Cans decides to come in on the, well, they're going to come in on the north, but I do hope they go a little more to the west, because they actually have so much room to work with. Aside from Young Kings, yeah. I mean, realistically, Pozo is wide open, and if this circle does decide to shift a little more towards Pozo, or at least a little more north, Gas Cans, again, have another phenomenal position to play from.
Just saying. Trailer Park is still inside the circle.
Trailer Park is
garbage. There is a chance we get an Indian Trailer Park.
That place is hot garbage for loot, and it is hot garbage to fight in. I don't think I've ever had a circle end there in my competitive days, at least.
No, it's like even the circles. No, we just don't go that direction. Like
there's just nothing there, man. It's just
see what I want on this map. I know everybody wants island finishes. I want an Oasis finish. I love Oasis, and I think that's a really cool, complex section, and we never get circles because it's so far north.
I actually agree. I've had, I think, 1 or 2 Oasis circle endings ever when I was playing, and I did enjoy that, because you, as a player, you actually have a decent amount to work with as far as the buildings and the small terrain, bumps and hills, little deflates, on top of the fact that it's just, there's a lot of cool different angles you can get there. Oasis is cool, I'll agree. I wouldn't mind an Oasis ending. Obviously, it's not going to happen in this game, but...
So whenever we're talking about Latin American performances right now, we should also kind of include Dignitas in this. Sparking making the switch over and join Dignitas.
Sparking, yeah.
They're not having the biggest of performances so far, but I mean, whenever it comes to kills, these guys are racking them up. Not at the same caliber that Sonics is, But just off the get-go, we've seen them have some very strong gunfights, and again, awareness on how to play this. It's just the late game is just a place they can't make it right now.
I feel like that's kind of been Dig's Achilles heel this entire time, right? They're, in my opinion, still one of the more impressive teams. I love the roster. I feel like Sparking has fit in very well. Obviously, the experience that Poon and Shinboy now have and how solid and great they are as players. And then Honey Badger's experience on multiple teams now getting comfortable. I think that roster is very strong, and it's very clear with the decisions they make for the most part in the early games. The problem is it always comes down for Dignitas to the late game or towards the end game where it's just one or two small missteps that just start the dominoes effect of everything else kind of falling around them.
And
that being said, their frags and their positioning is so strong.
Yeah, I just like I find myself rooting for them so much because they feel like an underdog, but they're not.
They're really not, though. But I get that. Yeah, I get that.
Well, speaking of kind of underdogs right now, TSM, we saw them for just a half a second before we make our switch back over to No Chance, who is the epitome of an underdog team right now.
Yeah, I mean, 0 dinners, only 8 kills. The thing is, too, is we saw them in the last game kind of stalking Oath, right? So we know that they have the potential to be super aggressive or to be very threatening to some of the better teams in the lobby, but I feel like they get themselves in too much trouble. That's the issue with No Chance. On top of the fact that I have noticed that when they are in those situations where in a lot of trouble, they tend to just kind of send it. And as we know, sending it, especially now in 2021 PUBG is not really, it doesn't really work as much as it used to. Teams are generally more ready for that type of play.
Yeah, and well, we've been seeing a couple of teams sneak by it. I mean, Sonics just sent it right into the center of the circle a moment ago, managed to get away with it.
I mean, I'm talking about in general, though. That seems to be what they do all the time. Yes.
Oh, you're talking about send it crashes. Yeah, send it crashes.
Yeah, send it crashes. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I miss those, though. They were fun.
I mean, they were definitely fun, but yeah, they were very sloppy. And sometimes we'll see teams kind of have to revert to that simply because there's no other options, and I get that. But I feel like, yeah, No Chance really should just kind of slow it down. I think that would be the best advice I can give that team. They seem to be kind of stumbling over themselves when they try to make these plays.
Crochet right now, taking a quick look at them, running the 2-2 split across the road as they do have Fumba that's pretty close to them right now, but nothing too scary. Fumba is the last southeastern team to come in, so the split that they've got going on probably not going to bump into too many kills, but if the circle does go this direction, that's a strong set of places to hold down at the time. Fumba, though, not wanting to run into that position quite yet, doing the opposite of Send It, which is a full retreat back to position that they already know we're strong, and looks like everybody's pretty comfortable at this stage.
Oh, this is what I'm talking about as well. I like this from Fumba. They realize that there's a team ahead of them in a Crochet. We thought they might have camped that road or maybe try to camp a rotation, which they actually ended up doing. And now Fumba is like, you know what, that's fine. We'll stop at this compound. We'll wait for the circle shift. And they've noticed that the circle's actually really... Oh, I can't believe no one's at Rumbler's compound. That's actually crazy. That compound is so good.
Chumasera's kind of in. Let's go! Chumasera, 2-building finish.
But yeah, Fumba can now just, they took the information and they're like, okay, we don't need to rotate any further, and they can make a better and more informed decision afterwards. And I feel like that's something a lot of these teams have not really done, at least in this event so far.
Yeah, with this circle, again, this is NPL circle shift that we were kind of expecting whenever we see it set up. Yeah, Sonic's pretty comfortable at this time. No Chance in a little bit of trouble as Troglodytes looks like they want to go ahead and try to take away their positioning. Grenades are going to come out on the other side of it, and looks like Kill Demo not too scared. Keep in mind, we are on Miramar, not quite as flat as Erangel, so that means that these grenades are going to roll around quite a bit. You got to make sure you cook them just perfectly. There's going to be a return salvo back over towards No Chance, but not going to get much out of it. TSM also getting involved inside this fight, throwing in a little bit of third party, and I do like this No Chance realizing this probably isn't the place to play, so instead hopping back into a vehicle. The problem with it is they do have Space Station Gaming that's going to be taking some shots. Troglodytes that could potentially move into the point, but they do navigate it well and find themselves a pretty defendable position.
The biggest issue for No Chance is they're actually split right now. There is a member at Rumbler's compound, which is that super high compound that basically overlooks this entire circle. They have a member there, which I assume they want to get everyone else there. The problem now is SSG is firmly in between them, on top of the fact that Fumba was actually just kind of sniffing around to see what's going on up there. So this is a split that I don't think Balkan is going to be able to at least consolidate with, because most of those the other 3 members of No Chance are pretty much stuck.
Yeah, it goes back to that verticality we were talking about. You just can't go east-west of that position quite easily because it's so steep. Trying to climb that hillside is just going to make you a target for everyone.
Yeah, well, not only that, but I'm curious as to why Balkan went so much earlier. Maybe he was trying to scout it out and then Space Station backfield, but that's kind of one of those instances where are they actually going to make this? They're actually going to make this. They're actually going to do this. That's crazy.
Done, no chance. If they can manage to cross this hill.
That's, wow. Okay, so I'm just going to eat crow. I did not expect them to be able to make that rotation. Wow. All right, never mind. That
Just
whole
give you guys a
segment for me.
They got away from Troglodytes. I don't think that Sonics had vision on them. Crochet definitely did.
Troglodytes, Crochet,
Space Station
SSG.
Gaming.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Good bit of
But
driving.
I'm wrong. No, I'm totally going to admit that I was wrong. I really didn't think that was going to be able to happen for no chance. But you know what?
No.
Now they have one of the best positions in the circle, so.
Dodge, don't go here of all places. H1 is here, guys. This is not the place you want to stop at. Dodge gonna roll into this point. Sonics do let them pass, but not friendly. Looks like Mime's just gonna go ahead and retreat out of position, and they're gonna be comfortably letting them have this.
Mime's just running away to grab Quinn. He's like, Quinn, come here. Dodge is over here.
We got your friends over here. Need to come say hello again.
This is dangerous too, though, because Monty. I mean, if this shifts south one more time, it's actually going to be Dodge that potentially hold out Sonics. Although,
Dig.
I imagine Sonics would also potentially try to take the high ground as it is open. But this is starting to shape up to be a very, very interesting circle.
All right, Dig. Where are you going? It seems like they're following the strategy of Chumacera, but 22 is splitting off. That could give them control of the south if the circle does go that way. It looks like that's what they're waiting for, as well as gas cans, where the circle's going to pop at. It's going to stay pretty centered up, so not a lot of our team's going to have to be moving, really just the ones that are inside of vehicles or along the edges. TSM is going to have to regroup with the other side of their duo, but it feels like the south is about to get pretty messy as 22, Dignitas, and gas cans all eyeing that direction.
Not even the south, honestly, just any edge right now is about to get very, very busy, and it's going to be very claustrophobic. Specifically, I would say, yes, the south, and then potentially Monty. If 303 decide that they want just something safe and something quick and immediate, they could send it into Monty, or they can go for a wide rotation. The problem is Veritas, Crochet, and even Fiumba at this point are kind of watching any of the good rotations that 303 would want to make.
So let you know how long gas cans have been nomming on that blue. They're going to have to stop for just a little while and med back up before making their approach into the safe zone. You can see Oath doing a little bit of harassment. They're going to have to move as well. They should have an idea that with gas cans going south, just kind of let them do it. They're pretty close to the safe zone as well, so they just might cut a little bit further west, which will put them up against Veritas and Fiumba in their positionings.
Well, gas cans might just rotate straight into Dig here, which would be bad for them as well, because Dig is mostly just setting up to see where they want to play ahead of them in the circle, but they could very easily turn around and just kind of devastate gas cans rotating in. So we'll see if that's the choice they decide to make. The good thing about this rotation, though, I will say from the gas cans, is the fact that they're taking so long and they're taking their time, which means that most of the teams generally should be already in the circle or situated. That, however, again, is not the case with Dignitas.
Gas cans looks like they're opting into the Chuma push. Going to be rolling in right up next to Dignitas. They have a read on what's going on. Right as soon as they crest this hill, it's going to be Punich who gets vision on first. The other ones are still inside of vehicles and making their way a little bit further west. That means that Punich is probably not going to go for the play off of it. Instead, retreat away from it. Gas can's not inside the safe zone just quite yet. Still just getting a little bit of a feeling for what's going on, scouting out just a touch. And with the scouts maybe stopping, that could provide Punich a little bit of a capability, but looks like they're not going to stay for too long. Punich unleashes a little bit of his ammo. That's going to force gas cans to run straight into 22's direction.
Yep, this is good. This was very well played by Dig. They realized there's a team behind them, and instead of getting backfilled, they shot them off and made sure that they rotated away. And now, yeah, there's someone else's problem. In fact, their problems are with 22 Esports right now.
TSM getting a little bit of taste of that, as well as they have the high ground, a little bit of vision. It's going to be, I believe, Luke 12 that's playing a very southern angle and can harass with both of these teams as 22 Esports try to make it a little bit further north. You can see that Veritas got themselves in a little bit of a skirmish with 303. Veritas is trying to regroup at the tie, but not a lot of help really required as 303 is going to get eliminated. Solid setup coming out from Veritas.
Veritas, again, I really like what they were doing. They decided not to kind of send it in or play towards the center, a little bit of on the offside of the circle where they could potentially do a lot of damage.
Oath decided to go south and follow in right back behind Gaskins, who they were harassing, and now are going to be the team that's bumping into Dignitas. Sealside's kind of slowing them both down as it's I mean, neither team feels like they want to commit to this fight. It's more just kind of like, well, I guess this is going to happen.
The problem is, I think this was actually the best rotation to take for Oath. Like, If I'm on Oath, that's pretty much the play I would make as well. The problem is now is they have to deal with Dig on top of the fact that once they do get in, even if they do, they have to deal with Fumba.
This is a very throwable range as multiple members of Dignitas are playing to the south. See if we can see a little bit more of a peek up coming through. Is Poonage feeling a little bit more comfortable on that, at least trying to feed over information. Opson is stepping out into the blue, stepping around the angle. That's what you love to see onto it. Doesn't get rewarded too much just quite yet. Instead, going to go ahead and jump into the blue yet again to try and dodge out the grenades. Good read on what's happening, but that means that he's going to have to step back just a little bit so that way they get time to get their meds back up.
The problem is they're not in the circle. I mean, neither team is still in the circle. This is really not a great fight to have. They're not even really fighting for a great position. They're just fighting to survive and get into the next shift. So really, yeah, this sandwich is what you talked about. The south side is definitely kind of the biggest issue right now, is Dig is still not in. And at this point, they're probably just going to opt to hold out Oath.
Oh, Dodge looks like they've managed to get a couple of down and flushes on there. H-Win, the raid boss, looks like he himself is now down. It's going to be Tiggleton and Mime that are trying to hold off the other two members for Dodge at the moment. Very aware of where the position is coming from and the fact that they are vulnerable, and approach on this coming up from Dodge, doing a little bit of a reposition of their own. Stepping around through this one, keep in mind, this fight is happening and no team is safe. Nobody is inside the safe zone at this. Now just Mime, the last one up, and if Dodge wins this, you know it's going to feel good. Instead, setting up, going for the reses. They don't know exactly where Mime is at. The moment he starts to make any type of movement, though, everybody on Dodge is listening for it. And there you go, footsteps coming through. Lamplot already looking down, trying to get a little bit of an idea on what's going on, feed that information back over towards his teammates. Tiggleton on the outside of it, trying to feed it through, and there you go. Mime steps up, gets a knock and a flush onto Vegas, now stepping back away from this one, waiting to see if anybody else is going to follow him.
Oh, not like this. Okay, I was going to say, is this going to be another situation where one member of Sonics destroys the rest of Dodge? But nope, they were able to, at the very least, salvage two. And their consolation prize is that they're not in the circle. So they do have a ridge and something to play right in front of them. The problem is, I'm imagining that Crochet is going to push out of that and actually get as much information as possible because of what they just heard. So Snakers is going to go down. He's going to flush his teammates because why not? I mean, there's really nothing else he could have done there. So yeah, it's going to be Oath out again.
And a lot of this is going on from this TSM play on this high ground. And Luke.
That's a red dot, by the way.
In the work onto Versus right now. They are making use of this high ground. Let's be real. If there's a team that should be familiar with NPL circles, it's this one. These guys are pros. We used to talk about how well they played Miramar back in the NPL days. They know what to do here.
Oh yeah, I mean these guys have all played. Were all played back then as well, and this does seem to be much more so a TSM game that we expect to see. Right, this is the TSM FTX that we at the very least is still live with 4.
Oh, Jube tries to go for a little bit of a play. Trogloditas trying to climb the hillside right now. The harassment coming out from TSM, forcing them closer and closer into Young King's positioning, and that's beneficiary for them. New Circle does pop, stays pretty far to the south, so the Dignitas fight that we saw going on just a second ago, but it's going to be a hefty reward. TSM not going to have to move too far either, but the teams that they're presently shooting at are all going to have to navigate a high ground TSM while also trying to climb this hill or go north to where a ton of teams are already positioned just to make it in the safe zone.
And meanwhile, Matt, no chances, just chilling in Rumblers. He's dead center in the circle. They haven't had to do anything. Nice shot from Luke. He's going to find a headshot on a 22. This could potentially be the time for them to push because, as you said, TSM is not in the circle yet.
TSM, that's a weakened 22 as well, and TSM knows it. They've been harassing them for a while now. No Chance, I just follow up. That early move coming up from No Chance and the read on the positioning and taking the risk right there, that's kind of the epitome of PUBG. They had to drive through a ton of teams to get to that point.
Yeah. Yep, it's a game-winning play. You go for the best position on the map, especially with that shift. You know that at the very least, that compound was destined to be in at least 1 or 2 more shifts, right? So they could have worked off of that. But instead, it's now still dead center, and I mean, I don't even think it's arguably. It's the best position in the circle currently.
They are not really stretching out and looking at what's going on right now.
No, they're not, which is a little disappointing. But, I mean, to their credit, they got the position, right? So you got to give them something, Matt.
Trogloditas is trying to climb this hillside and go after TSM, but they just can't. Young Kings are harassing them. TSM is making the approach into where we saw 22 playing out. Meanwhile, we've got Dignitas taking the fight into Veritas. So there is a ton of little skirmishes that are happening right now that could lead to a lot of these teams dropping off quite quickly. Trogloditas realizes they have to commit into the fight against Young Kings, and it looks like they're just going to set up right around Brickyard. Dignitas, still controlling this high ground point, is forcing Veritas to move closer and closer to a Cresce, and that's a beneficiary of it. While this is going on, TSM has managed to take out 22, and now gets control of that southeastern corridor, where everything that's going on with Troglodytes and Young Kings, wherever that fight resolves, are now going to have to contend up against TSM. Troglodytes needs to make sure to make some type of move off of this while they're getting the knocks in. They really can't get anything out of it, and it's just both of these teams are going to go down to the blue zone, and the amount of damage and high ground teams that are waiting for them to move.
Yeah, and it seems nothing has changed from the MPL days. These circles are still very brutal, especially when we start to get to phase 5 and 6. And just like that, Young Kings, Trogs, teams are just falling left and right. And it could be potentially Veritas's turn or Dignitas. This fight is huge. On top of the fact that Crush is just on the other side pushing this. I love it.
Well, Crush is having to contend up against a no chance, finally taking a little bit of harassment shots. Sparking does have the forefront position coming up from Dignitas, but Fumba's also been taking a couple of shots in this direction as well, and that's kind of posted everybody, made them slow down a little bit from Dignitas' side. Space Station Gaming's a sharp shot, finding an angle into this as well. It's an interesting position for them to be playing from. Keep in mind, they do have one of their members, a sharp shot, really close to no chance's positioning. So a lot of teams having different visions on different points, and what's going on right now is Dignitas realizing they have got to make something happen out of this sooner or later. It's just harassment back and forth on damage, but Honey Badger popping off. Punage coming up with the support on the side angle, and that was what needed to happen there. Finally, Dignitas getting control over that fight and has to move their way over towards the west, where Akreshe is patiently waiting.
That was freaking disgusting out of Poon. That was absolutely disgusting shots, Poonage. Well done. But they're not out of it yet. They're still on the edge. As you said, Akreshe still in and holding them out now. They are going to get the res off of them, Sparking. 7 kills, have terrain to work with, but Akreshe has been listening to this the entire time. I can only imagine some of the armor is potentially damaged off of Dignitas, as well as how much utility they have left. But meanwhile, back over to this fight with no chance. Add TSM FTX on top of the fact that SSG is still right underneath. And what a grenade from Alo!
I am so surprised.
That was like an air burst. That was right. Yeah, right?
These guys are just masters with grenades. Got to be a little bit careful as they're making their way forward onto it. TSM already sitting at 10 kills, wanting to go ahead and try to see if they can make it 11 or 12, aware of the fact that positions are set up right now. No chance is trying to hold this through, but once you start moving into close range, you know this is where TSM excels. Alo does go down in the exchange with this one, though. Party steps up and unloads on top of him. He goes down. It is a very close corridor firefight. Penta has a read on what's going on back behind him. No chance does get eliminated, but that's going to be Space Station Gaming coming in to join the party. Good read on this coming out from Penta to try to defend up, but he knows the fact that he has to try to make something happen here. He's trying to defend it up as reses galore are happening between his teammates. Luke 12 step back. Party's just going to go ahead and shift over and try to get the res onto Alo. Space Station Gaming trying to creep into this one. Can't make the play back over towards Roth's positioning just quite yet.
Oh, this is ridiculous. This fight between Dignitas is also popping off between Akreshe. We saw Nox being traded here from TSM FTX as well as Space Station, and I have to say the way that TSM pushed that and played that was what I want to see. That the playing for trades was beautiful, making sure they were aware of the next team coming in, which is Space Station. And now here comes Luke. That's going to be an easy knock.
Beautiful flank into that position. And Space Station Gaming in a lot of trouble right now. Good performance coming up from TSM. 16 kills and got control of the high ground. Akreshe, though, on the other side is in a ton of trouble. It's going to be Dignitas, who's been roaming through this one, finds the angle, and they're going to get another team wipe. At this point, they should be able to get the res back on the shin boy.
Ridiculous.
This is what I'm talking about, Godspeed. This is what I want. This is why I love Miramar.
Poon was actually out of control right there. That's the second time he got a multi-knock. In fact, I'm pretty sure he almost wiped Akreshe by himself. But now it is TSM FTX who have finally woken up. 15 kills so far for them. They are going to be holding that Rumbler's high ground compound. And with that, potentially the best position in the circle, depending on what this next shift does. However, Dignitas on the other side, 11 kills from the east side. They went through multiple teams, including Oath and now Akreshe. And this is down to a 4v4v3.
Poor Fumba. They do have one of their compounds that is inside the safe zone, but this circle is kind of set up to make their life a little bit difficult. TSM is still in a beautiful position that they've got that ridgeline that they can play from, and they've got high ground for days. Dignitas, though, is going to be the team that has to move into the dangerous territory, depending on how we see Fumba play this one. See, Dignitas knows, but it's all going to come down to getting a very pivotal knock onto TSM to give them the opportunity. They're all stacked up too. You just walk over there and be like, I took a couple of shots. Let me refill real quick.
What I really hope this circle does is it just centers up so that none of the teams are in, right? I want to see what these three teams could do with the utility they have, with the terrain available. Poonage again with I just love his positioning so far. Poonage is so hot right now.
This is what I wanted from Dignitas this whole time. We talked about the fact that Sonics had this massive lead over everybody regarding kills, but you can see Dignitas, TSM stepping up, realizing opportunities. Honey Badger going for a little bit of a peek, starting to regret it a little bit. TSM is very heavily focused into Dignitas's position at the time. And shots come onto Luke 12, so that providing a little bit more movement. You can see Dignitas is creeping forward every single time TSM goes back to reload and re-equip, and is finding an opportunity to move into the safe zone with this. So now it looks like all three teams going to be established on their points, and it's just going to be pretty much a gun battle at range right now. Who has the better aim and who can just harass, and it's a war of attrition. Burn off armor, burn off helmets, burn off meds, get everything you can to prep for this big firefight that's about to go
Correct. As much damage as possible before the shift, because again, none of these teams know whether or not they're going to be in. At the very least, they know they're not going to have to travel far, but there's nothing but a valley in between all of these teams. Fiumba playing that valley, actually, they tried to get a little aggressive. We noticed they tried to kind of maybe poke out, but TSM, FTX on top of, I'm not sure if even Dig had an angle, but they did not let them out of that compound, which now may be a problem for Fiumba as we move into this shift right now happening in about 20 seconds.
It feels like Fiumba's benefit right now is that Dignitas and TSM are pretty pissed at each other. So
yes,
they can
kind
of ride this one out a little bit. I mean, you can see that TSM has the angle into Fiumba, but Dignitas doesn't even really have much that they can get off of this because they can't find any angles without being harassed from TSM.
Correct.
So Fiumba gets the most movement off of it, but they know. Here's the problem: if they decide to make any move, TSM is going to see it, and that's going to be a redirect.
Okay, so this shift is actually money for Dignitas. This is exactly what they wanted to see. It's basically the best shift they could have. That actually is the best shift they could have hoped for. It's right on their edge, and they have a lot of room to work with now. They have this massive ridge, and it's TSM and it's Fiumba that have to move.
This is going to be rough. TSM now seeing the negative side to the high ground positioning that they're playing, because once they're trying to make their way down this, we're all familiar with that little bit of a stutter whenever you hit the ground and you just feel like you're entirely vulnerable. Well, against these two squads, you are going to be definitely vulnerable. Looks like TSM knows they're hopping in vehicles. Looks like it's going to be a full sin moment.
Yeah, well, they have smokes and they're prepping for that, which is why they're throwing so many smokes at once, because they need to get off of this ridge. If they can do that, they can manage to get down here. They do have cover to work with.
Oh, Purdy's getting away with it, using the hillside that Dignitas.
This is huge.
And the perfect moment whenever TSM got in a little bit of damage, Dignitas didn't even have the angles to try to stop that. So now it's going to be on Fiumba and see if they find the angle around the other position, because TSM is just getting more and more control in a position that they shouldn't have been able to get.
Fiumba is actually in an amazing position now to potentially push up and spoil Dignitas if they notice that this fight is continuing to happen between Purdy and the rest of these members. These utilities coming out, the flashes, the smokes, the grenades are all meant to push back the team of Dignitas and allow the other members of TSM FTX to get off that hill.
They're coming with it right now, hopping in the vehicle, rolling down. Purdy's putting in as much as he can to try to stall this one, to give the cover towards his teammates.
And here comes Fiumba.
Looks like they are going to escape on the other side of Fiumba, finding the angle, starting to throw in everything as well. It's going to be Dignitas that's pinched right on the edge of the zone. Two different teams trying to harass. Fiumba starting to step away from it right now, but TSM got their little bit of a ridge that they want to play from. Dignitas, look how battered and beat up they are right now, just trying to cling to life. Luckily, Fiumba is starting to step away and trying to get control over the center of the circle.
And this position that was so good for them, it was their saving grace, is now becoming their coffin, their grave. Unfortunately, they're getting pushed by both teams. That knock is huge coming out from Sparking, though.
If Dignitas opts into playing the south right now, they're going to have a little bit more movement. It's going to be TSM that's leaned up against the zone as everything's going to compress back down in the center yet again. Dignitas is trying to fend up. TSM trying to crest this hillside, but doesn't want to over-aggress. Instead, leaning into the utility that we know TSM can play so well. Dignitas trying to lean into their aim, going for peaks that are so dangerous. Lots of damage going to pop onto Alo. But yet again, it's another flashbang, denying any form of angle of approach as everybody has their eyes on Dignitas, and Dignitas is trying to fight their way out of this one with everything they've got.
But Fiumba now is actually starting to get some utility over towards TSM's side. They've noticed that Dig has a much more better defense on that. And so because of the shift of focus, and now Purdy has to be very careful. This game is actually out of control. Luke fighting too!
TSM making the push, trying to get something established. Molotov's coming from the side. Fiumba realizing the fact that they have an opportunity. Dignitas has the high ground, but DraftKings trying to take it from them. With the repositions coming up, Silzen's got himself a beautiful point. TSM now having to fight through hellfire that is being dropped upon them as they're dancing through Molotovs. Luke 12 still up for his squad, sitting on 10 kills, gets spotted out, and there we go, trying to take out the last members of Dignitas, getting a little bit more time. TSM sitting on 20 kills as we are looking into a straight up 2v2. Party takes a ton of damage. Luke 12 goes down. Party's got a smidgen of life, and Fiumba knows exactly where he is. Having to watch two different angles. Looks like he's trying to crest up, lean into the knowledge and the information that Luke 12 is trying to provide. This blue zone's gonna be close. He got time, just narrowly gets it.
Oh my goodness, Purdy, what can you do? Oh, he's got the red dot on the mini. He's probably out of ammo for that Groza. And that is it. Fiumba is actually going to take it over with just 4 kills. But man, what an insane ending to that game.
Fiumba getting their second chicken dinner and denying both Dignitas and TSM their first. But let's be real. That was one hell of an ending. And whichever team won that deserved it. From moment to moment, every single one of those teams played that so well.
That was potentially one of the best games of PUBG I've seen in a while, I feel like. That was amazing. I mean, even up from the onset of Circle 4, when we started to see the teams kind of push up to that compound where no chance was, and the surrounding areas. Obviously, the fight between Dignitas and Oath was popping up. I mean, that whole game was just... You want to talk about exciting circles? When you said, "Oh, we have an MPL West Coast circle or West Side circle," I'd be like, yeah, those are pretty standard." But I mean, just the way that played out was chef's kiss. It was chef's kiss.
And this is why I love Miramar. The different angles, the approaches, the strategy that it takes to get into these points, because you end up with so many close range fights. Whenever we saw TSM stepping up to try to take no chances position and managing to get it, but then Space Station Gaming approaching from a different hillside that leads to a high ground firefight onto Dignitas and Fiumba, where now the circle shifts away and TSM has to leave that high ground. It's just so beautiful to watch these players at the top of their game playing on Miramar.
Yeah, and at the very least, I will also say this. I mean, that was, even though TSM FTX didn't win that game, that play like that is what we have needed to see from TSM FTX. Because normally, yes, they don't win every game, and that's totally fine. But they didn't even seem like they were playing like themselves, like the team that we've come to expect. That was a game that I needed to see. That's a game that they needed to have in order to kind of boost the confidence going into the last game of today. And ultimately, I also want to shout out the same sentiments towards Dignitas. Very well done.
This is what we wanted from both of those squads. While they don't get the chicken dinner, there was so much going on. Like, I feel bad for whoever had to put together this highlights package, because you have like 50 things to pick from, and there's so little time to try to compress everything in. TSM making their assault, starting at 3 kills at this circle right now, and just watch the escalation as they just start taking control over the West.
I mean, they just foot pushed every team, and they did it methodically, which again is what we're normally used to seeing with TSM FTX. They're very much a team fight oriented type of squad, but just for whatever reason, you know, the last 6 games we've just seen fractured portions of that. In fact, we didn't even really see them take a good team fight together. So this is what we need to see. And then the same thing with Dig. My heart goes out to Dig, because I really don't feel like they misplayed anything. It's just they got sandwiched in a position which was so good for them at the start, and it ended up starting to slowly become the detriment because they couldn't move. They had Fiumba on their south. They obviously had TSM FTX moving up. Kurt potentially sacrificing himself by driving forward just to get that position to just start laying utility down. I mean, he threw all of his lethal and non-lethal utility aside from the smokes just to buy time, and it did catch Dig off guard, and because of that, they just weren't able to do anything off of that. But regardless, Poonage gets my MVP for that game, 100%.
Well, and the fact that, think about it, Dignitas didn't get a reset as much as we saw TSM manage to get. TSM managed to get some tools.
Look at that first knock.
TSM's armor and helmets are wrecked right now due to the amount of fighting that they've been in. But I don't think that they had the same amount of tools to take this. Just the fact that they didn't have a single throwable to toss TSM's direction that could have turned that fight around means the fact that they were just having to lean into their firefighting capabilities.
Dear Lord. Yeah, 20 kills coming out from TSM FTX. But yeah, you even look at Dignitas in that fight. I didn't even know who the first player that got knocked was coming over that ridge. But I don't think they had a helmet or a vest. They were just completely naked, right? There was no armor on that team, on top of the fact that, yeah, they had used pretty much all their utility in the 2 or 3 team fights I think they had before that. Again, Oath, they had the previous fight with the Crescent. I think they even had one more fight before that. So I'm not surprised that they kind of got bullied like that. But even still, they put up a hell of a game.
Can we take a second and Fumba, congrats on your second chicken
Yes.
dinner. I know.
Sorry.
But I'm caught up in the fact that we still have TSM and Dignitas that killed half the lobby between two teams.
That's true, and Fiumba, yes, they got a lot of circles. They were in that comp out quite early, but the way they played that, you have to give them credit for that. Yeah, they didn't get as aggressive.
That talks trash about Fiumba with Silzen on it, you're wrong. That's all I can say.
Sills is obviously a great player, but yeah, they did exactly what they were supposed to do. They waited. They didn't get too over aggressive. They let TSM, FTX, and Dignitas basically just cannibalize and slaughter each other. And then once they were able to kind of push the envelope there and get one of the weaker teams down, that was it. You know what I mean? They were able to just wait it out, man. That's all they needed to do, and they did it. So shout out to Fiumba.
I'm just glad that tomorrow I'm on the analyst desk because, by God, after that game, my voice is going to be wrecked. That was.
We have one more game, Matt.
So. I know. We still got one more game, and if that's just the first Miramar, now we're going to deal with all of these teams that are super pissed that are going to be coming in. So, guys, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break because I need some water. I'm not going to lie. I would be surprised if players need it too after how sweaty that last one was. So we will see you in just a few minutes.
everybody back once again after game number 3, which saw a second win from Fiumba. Fiumba doing what Gascans was able to do yesterday and get the back-to-back game 2 and 3 wins. And it's LATAM show so far today, but is it really? TSM and Dignitas putting up some big boy numbers in that one, IPOC.
Yeah, I mean, you got to say that's the headline, right? With a borderline 35 kill share between the second and third place teams. It was explosive in the end game. It's one of those scenarios where you almost wish that it was only them standing, right? It was only those two facing off in the end game.
Definitely seeing a little bit of a step up as TSM managed to beat in one game their total amount of kills that they've managed to get so far, Cameron.
Yeah, and they haven't moved too much on the leaderboard because of that, though. I mean, seemingly they're still in 7th place. It's just going to be the tiebreaker that's putting them on top of Veritas. But that amount of kills makes their tiebreaker, that is kills, a lot stronger. And the same, I think, can be said for Dignitas. You can see their overall ranks here. 0 wins for them so far, but the kills are starting to look good. Up until now, it was really only Sonics that had a standout number of kills, at least within the teams that had 0 wins so far. Now we have multiple teams that are up there that once they get that single win, maybe 2 wins if we look forward towards tomorrow, that are going to put in a significantly better position.
I mean, it was really looking like the Luke 12 and Poonage show going on in that last game, Hypoc. How are these guys going to rebound, man? After getting that close, having games like that, and then still losing out on the win.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, usually, well, I say usually, occasionally there's one team that kind of has that heartbreak finish, right, after an amazing game, or at least an amazing mid-game into that transition towards the late game at least. But there was 2 teams here. I mean, time and time again we saw them coming up. I'm glad we included that clip that actually looked like Honey Badger was shooting laser beams, and it actually Poonage off to the side just landing the shots. But
he helped.
Both teams, yeah, he helped. Both teams, it's just insane attempt. That's the best way to describe it, right? It's heartbreaking to see 2 fall short. Just based on that third party. But I mean, you could argue potentially there's an opportunity to get a little more decisive, take a little more space ahead of that opportunity presenting itself.
I mean, it was a textbook play from TSM leaving the compound, sending 1 with 3 Overwatch, and then Purdy just spamming what had to be, I believe, 20 to 30 flashbangs over the top of Dignitas, letting the rest of his team get through. But Cameron, 3,500 damage in one game from TSM. Have they turned the corner? Are we expecting them to kind of get this snowball rolling?
Let's hope so. They are definitely looking a lot better from that game, from what we saw earlier today. So the only thing you can hope for as TSM or even fans of TSM is that, yeah, sure, they didn't get the win, but they still got those kills. Kills do still matter. Maybe not as much as they did previously, but they are still impactful. And if they continue to play like this, as Hypox said at the top of the show, it's a matter of if not when. Granted, we only have 5 games left in this first weekend.
It's getting a little
scary.
So
we are running out of time, but
a little spicy.
I'm sure that at least 2 of Sonic's TSM and Dignitas are going to end up with 1 win by the end of this whole weekend.
Well, all 3 of those teams really kind of putting a very good performance on. They just haven't been able to find that win column just yet. But that being said, you know, we used to kind of see these parity in terms of our wins. They're kind of spread out all over the place. But this weekend, it's 2. It's kind of a little bit daunting for some of these teams that are looking to try to work their way up the leaderboard, Hypoc, when you got 3 teams with 2 wins now.
And I think that phrase there is key, right? Trying to work their way up the leaderboard. Usually some of these teams we're talking about, the ones that post an early win, are able to, play with almost, a little more freedom, right? A little less pressure on every single decision they have to make along the road throughout each game. So, the ones that really stick out for me there, I mean, TSM, notoriously one that are very good at chasing. In terms of the leaderboard, right? It's more often than not they're chasing and they're performing well whilst doing so. The other ones that you could argue, I mean, Oath, they're very rare that they're ever given a game one, starting position where they can build from that, and it's just not been an awful lot of follow-up.
I haven't really seen a whole lot from them since that game 1 win. Cameron, about to head into our final game of the day. What you got your eyes on?
Honestly, I have no idea, because it's the teams that are winning those 2 wins. 2 wins are not the ones that we expect. it's anyone's game at this point. That's all I can say. The script is being completely rewritten as we speak.
Well, Purdy Curdy has been quoted as saying they are just boring gamers gaming all day. Well, let's throw it over to a couple of boring casters who are casting all day. Matchroom and Godspeed, take us home.
Why, thanks, Boro. We will try to be as boring as possible for you now. After that last game, I could use a little bit of boring Godspeed. Damn, that was such a good game.
I'll remember that, Michael, that even is your real name. I'll remember that. That's all I have to say.
It's just
That's it.
ending it right there. We're just going to stare awkwardly into the camera because Mike said that we're boring.
Remember that. Yeah, I'll remember that. I have some pictures and videos on my phone. I'm just saying that I have not released. So, if you want to go that route, we could, Poro. You just let me know.
Oh,
just let me know.
Now we're bringing in blackmail. I like where this is headed.
We're
Soon we're going to start getting some twit-longers between the two of you, get some caster beef going on. Let's go.
Maybe.
Need the drama in my life.
But yeah, for this last game, I would absolutely love to see maybe a win on one of the sides of these teams that we've just been talking about for the last 2 days, man. It's crazy because TSM, FTX, and Dignitas got so absolutely close. But yeah, so far today, it's been the LATAM show.
And deserved, let's be honest. Whenever we see the way that they're playing, we've had some standout moments coming from North American players.
Sure.
But whenever it comes to the end of the day, it's about the chicken dinners, and that's where LATAM has their eyes set, and the goal is being readily accomplished 3 times in a row today. 2 of them back-to-back by Pumba.
Yeah, and I have to also agree with the sentiments of the desk as well. It's really rough when you're like Punage or you're Luke 12. I mean, Luke 12 also popped off. We didn't really talk about that last game, but you have those performances, and then you don't get the dinner. So obviously, I'm just hoping that these guys will just go in with the same mental toughness they had in the last game and just try to do it again, because ultimately with only 5 games left, the opportunities for closing out these wins are very quickly starting to close.
We've talked about it a lot, that the mental in PUBG is very hard because you have to be constantly rebounding. It's not like other games where if you lose a series, you're done and you just go back and watch. If you lose a game in this and you lose a firefight real bad, you got to bounce back, get ready, reestablish plans, come back in for the next game. It's just like a GG, let's go to the next one kind of situation. Especially, we don't get a chance to talk about whenever you have a phenomenal performance, but it doesn't translate into the chicken dinner.
Right.
How much more stressful that is, because you just feel like you put in so much and you got so close. It just didn't get it.
You know what? I'm going to say something a little controversial. Yeah, it is very frustrating, but at the end of the day, you have to be mentally tough. You have to mentally reset. This format sucks. It's hard. It's for the players. It's hard. Blah blah blah. I get that, but you know what? You decided that this is what you want to do, so you have to adapt, and you have to be mentally ready to have those games, and to lose those games, and to bounce back and try to do better than the next time, or just reset. That's really what it comes down to. So that whole excuse is just starting to get really old.
Bring back the hashtag adapt.
I mean, no, I understand this is a very difficult format. I'm not going to disagree with that. But at the end of the day, I mean, this is still the game you choose to play, so you got to get used to it.
And it is, and I understand all the complaints about the mentally taxing, but I mean, for all fairness, whenever it's like tax season, accountants go through a mentally stressful season as well. Every game and every job has its own stresses, and while this one definitely mounts and you get to see it in a public way, you just got to rebound and you got to go to the next one strong. And here's hoping that we see teams, most notably Dignitas and TSM, who performed quite well in that last one, step up and show the fact that they've still got it inside of this one. With the way the circle's set up, though, if you're a Space Station Gaming fan who has been patiently waiting for them to have their chicken dinner, feeling pretty good about this one.
Yeah, I mean, so far, we'll have to see. This circle is, I mean, it's just a fairly standard East Coast circle that we've seen before around Impala as well and La Bandita. So we have seen actually some really rough circles end around La Bandita, just because I know rotations into that zone, especially later, can be a little difficult. But obviously, we'll have to see what happens with that.
Yeah, I'm just kind of getting an idea on what it looks like we have set up. Oath feeling pretty comfortable in their positionings. I'm going to keep an eye on how they handle this, because they have a lot of options. The way that Oath is set up, I mean, they can go down along the Bandita hillsides and use the crater itself for defense. Don't ever play inside of Bandita at this stage, by the way, guys. You lose all information on what's going on around you, and it's kind of like setting yourself up to be an ambush.
Yeah, you just put yourself in a bowl, you're eventually going to get just kind of taken out from all sides, agreed. But, I mean, I don't really imagine many teams would take inside La Bandita right now.
I'm just got to clarify, because, playing the hills on the outside of it, using the cliff facings for advantage and vision, there's a couple of very good points on that. Dignitas also has a big chunk of the circle that they can control. Whenever we're looking at TSM, we all know where TSM drops. They like the Hacienda to work around, so they are kind of inside the zone, but they're not going to stay there. Really, it's going to be about the south, as we do have really a Cresce that's over there, Trogloditas, No Chance, Dodge, Veritas, and Fiumba that are all kind of around that Los Leones and the western area of Los Leones that's not inside the safe zone. And that's going to lead to a little bit of a traffic jam in some of these rotations potentially.
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing as well is I'm curious how much Dig is actually going to split here to the north, because they have a very wide kind of looting pattern right now, but they very well could camp like one of the main rotation points in from the north if they wanted to.
Yeah, there's a lot on the table, specifically at this stage where you can try to set traps, but you, like the last game, sometimes can come a little bit wheels off in the day. And yes, guys, we only have 4 games today, so that does put us in our last game night. So sometimes teams just go, okay, that's it. We need to get kills. We need to set up traps. We need to do all this other stuff. This is a circle where there's a lot of opportunity to do so, specifically with the flatlands and the plains that are west and are, I guess, kind of centralized in this circle. Like where we can see a lot of these teams that are going to start approaching from means that a lot of these teams are kind of forced into areas right on top of each other.
Yeah, very much so, which, as you know, causes quite a bit of chaos overall. But it seems as though a lot of teams are actually rotating much more early this game than they have, at least in the last couple games we've seen today, Matt. I'm noticing we have 303 who's actually rotating in earlier than normal. Gas Cans seems to be one of the only teams that actually enjoys coming in late, and that's actually worked out for them over the course of this weekend at the very least. They've been coming in late, and they've been able to kind of backfill teams and really kind of backstab and get in the positions that they want. So watch for Gas Cans to do that again.
Yeah, not afraid of the blue, to say the slightest on that one. So there's no hesitation coming in. We do have a little bit of a, I guess, I wouldn't say a situation, just really Dodge that was looking towards a No Chance. No Chance doesn't really want to pursue that. Instead, going to go to the hills that looks like they're going to be the east of Los Leones. Trogloditas coming into play. North getting a little bit more clustered than I was expecting already, as it does look like Versus is going to be rolling in right back behind TSM. But they should be aware of who's leaving the Hacienda area, and unless they're just really wanting to go and try to pick up some kills for themselves, I wouldn't imagine that they would chase this one too hard.
I am curious, though, if TSM is actually going to try to stop and maybe punish Versus for this, because they're in the circle and they very well could just do that.
That's one of the things about TSM is given different opportunities, you never know what you're going to get. They might be a team that'll play edge. They could be a team that goes off towards the center. They could take a firefight early, or they could try to avoid all conflict. It's all about trying to find the opportunities as they come, and whenever they feel like they have the advantage, as you can see in the last game, they are not afraid to take it.
No, they're not afraid to take it at all, and that's the thing I like about TSM FTX, except for the fact, obviously, they've kind of been a little underwhelming so far. Obviously, the last game notwithstanding, but yeah, they don't always do the same thing, right? They're not just always an aggressive powerhouse, or they're not always just passive. They don't always just play center. They're very much adapt to what's happening around them, which is what I think makes that team, quite honestly, so strong.
Versatility comes in so many different ways, and whenever we talk about the teams that have the capabilities to constantly pick up wins, it always comes down to teams that don't have one specific flavor, one specific style, can handle whatever's coming their way. 22 Esports, got to be a little bit careful, as they do have themselves a control point, but TSM, one of the teams that we were just talking about, is coming their way just a little bit. But with this information gathering position that they have, I don't think that unless they get a knock and a quick flush, not much is going to come from this, and other than just harassment.
Yeah, it's actually such a strong position as well.
It is.
They have so much vision. I mean, the sightlines on basically everything. And they can make probably the best informed decision on where to go based off of this. Meanwhile, Sonics and Team Veritas are just going to look at each other, maybe take a few shots. Oh, wait a second. Actually, Ethan could get a knock here, which would be pretty devastating.
I think that Ethan's a little bit nervous because he doesn't have any support from this position. He's afraid if he takes a shot, maybe he'll get some retaliation shots coming towards him.
I think he just wants to make sure he gets the knock, to be completely honest, because that's a free kill. If Tig gets knocked, there's no cover for him to get away or to be saved. The problem is Ethan has to hit these shots, and obviously Tig isn't going to stand still.
Tig is so bouncy, man. Just constantly shifting the head around, constantly moving up and down, and this is why you do that. You see the fact that it gets you a little bit more space. And, yeah. Never sit still. Still makes you dead in PUBG. So, looks like Tig's going to get away from that one, and Ethan's going to be slightly annoyed, but go ahead and separate away from it. And hey, the gas cans aren't in the blue. I'm confused. What is going on?
I mean, they came in on a north rotation, but yeah, I surmised that they would have guessed, especially with the scouting that they did, that most of the north is going to be open. There's no reason for any teams to really stay that far north. I mean, we do see Young Kings kind of up there, but that's also because they rotated in late. So gas cans coming in at the very same time. In fact, if we talk about Veritas real quick, they did get quite a bit of information on Sonics, so that will help them a little bit in the future as far as decisions to make. And Luke is taking some damage.
It should be noted, we often talk about cruel circles and how they happen every once in a while. Oddly enough, with this circle, the center, if it centers up, is the cruel circle in this. Just because you end up with the Impala Flatlands just kind of there. And you can see a lot of these teams already posted up, just set up and waiting for somebody that has to approach. So if the circle does pop closer to center, you'll lose a lot of cover. Everything's already claimed, and it's just rough. It's just which dip do you know that maybe somebody else doesn't know about is kind of your plan.
Well, if you look at the dead center where SSG, Balefrost is, as well as Dig and Dodge, like those four kind of compound positions, if the circle centers up and that is where it ends, this is like one of those situations on Miramar where if you don't have a position early, we see this on Erangel too, there's just certain circles where if you don't get something early, it's very difficult to get in circle without basically crashing or just doing something very risky that you wouldn't want to do. And that's kind of one of those shifts that may lead to that. Obviously, this could go north, but yeah, that center road that Balefrost is basically the center of is very unforgiving to play out of if you don't already have a spot. As we can see, Dodge is actually rotating there right now.
This circle is complex no matter where it goes. We've got La Bandita on one point. We've got Minas in another. I mean, we've got the flatlands that we were just talking about. Even whenever you go up around Junkyard, there's a lot of complexity in this position. No matter which direction this circle goes, these players are going to have a rough time ahead of them, and let's hope that their decision-making is on point, but Trogloditas rolls through the wrong neighborhood, and Ethan, while he didn't manage to take down Tiggleton a second ago, is at least going to be able to get Necro.
Yep, so Necro is going to fall. Nice little kill coming out for Veritas. And Trogloditas, man.
Yeah, that's my emotions right now, too. This is their opportunity. We keep talking about PGC points and how important they are. They are the second place team as far as PGC points go, and it feels like they're not going to get any of this event. So it's just going to open up the door for a new team, and right now, Akresha and Fumba feel like they deserve it.
Yeah, I mean, as far as, you're right, as far as LATAM goes, Trogloditas has 75 right now, and the only other team ahead of them is Enraged with 130. So this is a huge opportunity for them to jump up ahead and be the first place team from LATAM, which would again be massive considering, PGC.
Yeah, I mean, there's only one more event, which is going to be the PCS that's leading into PGC. So
correct.
This is the prime opportunity to show up as Trogloditas has kind of opened up the door, and Enraged just opened up the garage, I would say, just letting anybody come in that they want to. So you can see a couple of skirmishes that are breaking out at the time, but no real big firefights just quite yet. I think everybody is pretty much in a comfort position. We do have some teams that are close to each other, but it's not uncomfortable at this stage.
No, not yet. It will get there soon. That's going to be a knock coming out from Alo onto Stone Storm.
That should be fine, though. I mean, like, should be pretty defendable enough. Oh, well, hey, look, 303, you stuck your head out in the wrong area. And this is kind of turning a little bit problematic for 303 as they have TSM on one side, Sonics on the other, and 22 and Young Kings also with areas that they might be able to harass. Purdy feeling this. I thought that they were just going to hang out up on the high ground and abuse it, but no, they say, hey, we know what's going on. We know we just got to knock onto the 303, and we know that Sonics just got a kill onto 303.
Exactly. Paying attention to that kill feed is just paramount in these games. But I want to say with that, if TSM does manage to kind of get rid of 303 and take over this position, they have so much room to work with, which is exactly what TSM loves to do. They love to just completely clear circles, excuse me, at least edges of their circle, and then just work in from there. So maybe look for TSM FTX to get a little more aggressive even still. On 303 Esports.
If TSM wins this fight, they end up with almost a quarter of the circle to themselves. The entirety of the Northwest.
I'm sure they know that too.
I mean, I like the play coming out, and I think that's why we are seeing the aggression. Dignitas, our other big fragging team from the last game, pretty close to position. Looks like TSM's having a couple of problems as they're trying to make their approach into 303's point. Keep in mind, Young Kings is playing to the side of this and has a little bit of vision. But as does Dignitas, playing a little bit of a higher angle onto it, trying to hit the shots. And, ooh, Luke 12. That is uncharacteristic knock coming out right there.
Just took one more shot. He does a sliver of health. Oh, and a headshot. He's actually going to get traded there. So Luke is going to take a second to heal. But what is the rest of TSM FTX doing? They are getting aggressive now, actually much more so. They're starting to actually surround 303, which is becoming quite the dangerous predicament for them.
303 in the way that they're set up and just how Minas kind of plays out, it's very hard to regroup from 303's position. So it's just sight lines and trying to defend your teammates as it goes. With the way that the circle did pop, we ended up with Minas, Junkyard, and those fields in play. So a little bit of everything to be kind of mad at as TSM's continuing to push forward. It is going to be Luke spotting out Trisk. So now down to just 2 members. 303's got a little bit of trouble as they can't retreat from this point because Oath and Young Kings hear what's going on as well as Sonics. And really a stacked up TSM is just slowly and steadily strangling them out at this point.
Yep, and this is what we wanted to see. I don't know how many times I've said that in the last game and a half, but yes, if you actually look at it, TSM has bullied 303 into that final kind of building, and now they know there's only 2 members left, so they should be able to, if they really wanted to, clear that out with a 4-man push. But
meanwhile, barely gets away with that one.
Yeah,
that's a little nerve-wracking to say the least, and that's going to be the little bit of a position that we can see that's starting to line up. No Chance also decided the fact that they want to come into this neighborhood, which could be a little bit problematic, as High Command's going to be retreating at roughly the same time. So that means that No Chance is going to have to contend up against Gas Cans. If this goes awry and they keep on going north, that means that they're going to have to deal with VS. Looks like they do opt into stopping, but boy, they put themselves in the surrounding spot. But Cable hits the shots on a High Command and gets them a little bit more control. It's a lot of grenades that are raining down and not a lot of options to work with. Rizola does go down. RDS has taken a ton of damage, but with this, they've managed to get themselves a little bit of time to work around. Starting to look through. Looks like they're trying to get flush on this one. Should be able to get the res back onto Rizola. And so with this, a good play coming out from No Chance, but realize they are not inside the safe zone and going to have to continue moving forward with the duo now posted up and a Cresce hearing what's going on and looking like they want to advance into it. Gas Cans gets the vision. Balkan doesn't get away with that one and should be flushed out quite quickly.
I feel like No Chance could have at the very least kind of popped over and seen if there was anyone really holding that angle, and because of that, they're going to lose one.
Can't win. They've got threats too many different angles. They're going to go ahead and get taken down, but No Chance. All right, you took down Gas Cans, but guess what? A Cresce wants to be involved in what's going on. RBN finds the angle on one. Rusty Zero is going to have to contend up against Veritas, who's harassing them as well. Gets a knockout. A Cresce is just fighting everything that's moving around them. Doesn't matter the distance. Look at this. These guys are just maneuvering through this. Can they make it in time to get to that? I don't think that they should, but the blue... I mean, it's right along the wall. Actually, I think it's fine.
I think he survives. I think you're right. Oh, and that shift is so good for Dig and even a Cresce.
Yeah, there's a lot to keep an eye on. Remember, Oath already has a chicken dinner. They're in a pretty comfortable position right now. TSM really wanting to try to get a chicken dinner of their own, not inside the safe zone, but Dignitas, like you were talking about, also in the hunt for their first chicken dinner. Pretty comfy right now. But do note, a Cresce, we were talking about how violent they are off to the side and getting control over the east. They're already sitting on 2 and inside the safe zone as well.
Yeah, and if you're a Dig fan right now, you are, or if you're just Dig themselves, they're incredibly excited to be there. Young Kings has an interesting compound because I feel like that's the next step for TSM FTX if they decide to rotate in from that side, which they most likely will, as we see this kind of mad dash now for these teams to get in. Yeah, there's a lot of open field here. I'm very curious what Sonic's play is.
There are the hills that could provide some safety and some dips if you can manage to make it past Oath. Right now, Oath is caught up taking shots at 22, which is providing a little bit of an opportunity for Sonics to creep through this corridor. You can see Hasten does go down and get flushed out. You know, they just got to continue on their way. SSG realizes the fact that there's some benefit in what Sonics is going to do and is following up back behind them. The problem with it does mean the fact that now Sonics, who have managed to make it past Oath, have to contend with where 22 is posted up at. Mime's going to step up and say, thank you, pick up that kill, and instantly run into the shack. Now the question comes into play, where does SSG go? They manage to see everybody from Sonics take that quick stop, and now they find themselves in between them and Dignitas. And are they going to commit into the Dignitas push, as it looks like they might be thinking about it, but that is going to be a very risky play.
Well, Dig now has to know that there's a team right under them, on top of the fact that there's a team at the shack just to their east. And so, I mean, luckily they still have the compound. They're going to have a lot of cover to work with. But yes, this fight is going to be pretty risky for them, all things considered, because SSG, although they're not in the compound, there's a lot of trees. There's a lot of cover for them to play around as well.
This is such a strong compound, but has notable problems with it. You were talking about the tree cover as it comes through. Look at the amount of smoke that's getting laid out. This provides opportunity. Those walls work both ways, so SSG can try to use them. I like the fact that Dignitas already has an idea on how this is going to be playing through, trying to play along that side, but Roth has the shots on top of it. That means that he's going to go down, and he's in a vulnerable position by himself, putting more pressure onto Dignitas to try to defend this one up.
And the problem here for Dignitas as well is this compound is so hard to hold, even as 4, right? Because there's so many different angles or approaches that a team can take in order to get in one of these buildings. Dig does look like they're trying to funnel them into a certain way, but oh no! That Molly almost took out Shin, and now it's just 2 members up for Dig.
TSM tried to make their approach, and they bumped into VS. Lost a couple of members on their run into this point, so feeling a little bit of what we see going on with Dignitas as well. Our Alliance from last round finding a couple of vulnerabilities right now, but Space Station Gaming, one of the teams trying to exploit it, and you can see the fact that they are finding every single angle and every advantage as they can as they're trying to make the approach into Dignitas. Dignitas is getting a little bit of a read on the situation, trying to retreat from this point. While this has been going on, the new circle has popped, and it is due center. Whoever wins this firefight is going to be rewarded, but you can see Dignitas having to take the shots on the outside of this because now Sonics is willing to make their approach. Sonics realizes the strength of this, and it is a ton of strong, frag-heavy teams fighting over this point.
Well, Sonics heard all of that fighting. They saw the knocks between Dig and Space Station, so they know which 2 teams are here. They know that Dignitas is crippled right now. At the very least, they only have 2 members up. Space Station, meanwhile, have 4 members strong and now are in the best position in the current circle if they can just get rid of Dignitas and hold off Sonics.
Mime tries to make his approach, but it's going to be Shinboy just holding up right now, making sure that Sonics bites every single time they try to approach upon this wall. But that does mean the fact that they've had to leave SSG to their own devices and give them more and more control over this compound. With everything that's going on, Dignitas is starting to feel a little bit of a crunch, but that does mean that Shrimzy has to pull away from this point. To the north, TSM and the 2 members that they still have up are taking shots into Young King's point. Fiumba trying to make a run, and Fiumba, are they sending it right into the center? Are they wanting to join the party as well? They're going to be able to run right by Shrimzy, who's going to be able to get in a little bit of damage, and Shrimzy bites off a lot with those shots, as it's going to be the entirety of that squad turning around and looking him in the face to take him down.
Yeah, Fuma's actually lucky they made it in with the way they did with that grenade and the fact that they were all in one vehicle. But hey, they got it done. Now they're in a position where they can start to push up and press their presence on this fight. And as far as Dignitas, it was kind of a pick your poison moment where they shifted focus and gave control of most of the compound to SSG because they had to stop Sonic. So even still, 2 members alive. Dignitas is not out of this yet, but now this compound is about to get a whole lot more busy.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams with eyes on it at the point. Fiumba playing that shack just a little while ago. Veritas and Akreshe, and a little bit of a dust-up between the 2 of them. Akreshe does have the high ground point that they're trying to play from, and are making some use of it, as it's going to be Kaishin that does find an angle back down onto Ethan. RBN, not in the biggest of hurries to go with anything, so really, I believe it is just 1 member up for Veritas at this point, and he's been spotted out, and it's just a matter of time. There we go. Akreshe gets control over the East, as most teams have kind of settled in, with Akreshe getting that win on that firefight. That's a lot of the circle they now control.
Looking at the map here, I'm curious when Akreshe is actually going to make their move. When are they going to try to... Because Fiumba right now is basically in the open, right? There's so many different angles Akreshe could actually get onto them to wipe them out and then just take over their position and completely control the East. If that's something that they wanted to do.
I feel like Akreshe doesn't know how much they actually control at the time. You can see the fact that they are peeking up to the north, trying to keep if anything's going on. They're trying to scout it out, but once they start getting an awareness of how much control they actually have, that's going to make it a lot more interesting. Meanwhile, Young King is making the assault into versus positioning. Note T-Plince's flank off to the side of this. He has a read on what's going on, and he can just pop up right back behind them at any given moment, and damage is being done between it. T-Plince goes down, and a beautiful flick coming out from Flux. A little bit of harassment now going through as Flux trying to make sure he holds this one out. Last one up for his squad. Gonna go down, and Versus does manage to survive that one. But man, they've got to be careful as Oath does hear this, and it looks like Oath might be opting in to come into the north.
And Oath has chosen the most opportune time. Again, not much in the way of kills really for Oath. I mean, just so far this weekend, but at the very least, they have a position they can play from. Balefrost obviously try to get as much information as possible while still being in the circle. The other 3 members probably just wanting to get rid of Versus here so that they can really take control of the north. The problem is Akreshe has actually decided to do the same, and they've actually ignored Fumba altogether and decided to play the north side of this compound.
There is a team that's been quite quiet, and that's Dodge to the south. Problem with Dodge's positioning is everybody sees Dodge's positioning. They're trying to creep their way into the safe zone. They've got Fumba that's looking at them. They've got SSG that's looking at them. And even Oath every once in a while, I think, has a glance point that they can try to take from this one. But Fumba is really the problem with it. With Akreshe moving up to the north, it's just a clear sight line on anywhere Dodge wants to go.
And Dodge, I'm wondering how much actually utility that they have to throw in order to commit to this. Meanwhile, Oath has started to poke their head a little bit more, and look at this.
I guess that works. Archray just walks in and says, well, if I'm going to get anything, I'm at least going to get a kill point for this one, and going to go ahead and go for the spray into it. He does instantly die for his transgressions, but now Akreshe very aware of the positioning from Fumba. Fumba was looking up towards the complex that everybody has been fighting for at the time. It looks like they realized that, hey, Akreshe, let's go ahead and take this fight. We've got the position points that we want to play from, and man, Akreshe are making this look easy right now.
Have been very impressive so far, not only yesterday but today as well. I mean, the plays that they've made, even this rotation, I thought maybe they'd try to take out Fumba earlier, but no, they took control of the north first. Then with a more measured approach, they're now heading down towards the south to take care of Fumba. I mean, this is textbook stuff. 10 kills as well. Akreshe is killing it right now.
I do like this. Then going up to the north, they get more control to play from. They have some cover. They already know where Fumba was. A beneficiary of what's going on right now is now Fumba really can't commit any resources to keeping on Dodge, and that's allowing them to sneak into the safe zone as well. Oath creeping closer and closer to, I guess let's just call it Murder City at this point, because everybody is fighting over the compound that Dign originally held. And Space Station's still holding it down as well. Dignitas's 2 members still alive at that point, so everybody else doing the fighting around them, as it looks like Dodge might be eyeing the positions and the approach that Oath is presently holding.
The Dodge is at the very least still alive. They were in a bit of a pickle there, rough situation, but yeah, with the utility they had, they were able to kind of survive. And this push is not impossible. They have smokes, but they need to make it sooner rather than later. The problem is Oath is very well aware of this, and they're watching that.
I mean, it just continues to compress into that original Dignitas compound as more and more problems are going to start to mount for those that are trying to hold it down. SSG has been doing a good job, but there are so many angles. You were talking about it earlier, Godspeed. It is a defendable point. But whenever you have, at this point, 6 different teams, or technically 5 that are trying to that are looking at it, one of them already being in there, and trying to figure out how they can approach this compound, you just can't watch that many angles.
Right. It's just, I mean, even against just one team, that compound is difficult to hold.
Well, Fumba feels like they've got a goal, and they are just sending it straight in. They're going to run right into the control point that we saw Space Station Gaming trying to hold them. So there is one member of Space Station Gaming right in this position, but playing it a little bit more carefully. Akreshe did take shots on the approach, so it's going to be Roth that is just going to be patiently waiting, seeing if MA is maybe going to step over that. That is a dangerous little vault right there if Roth has an idea or hears what's going on.
Hey, sometimes you just gotta go for it, I guess.
Yeah, I can see you thinking about switching over to that Uzi or that AK for this close range fight.
I mean, that wouldn't be the worst idea, honestly. That thing shreds close range, or even a shotgun. Yeah. A shotgun would be amazing right now, simply because this is going to most likely end in this compound somewhere, it seems. So at the very least, a shotgun would be good. But I mean, I also don't blame any of these players for not wanting to make up another gun, even if it is a very powerful shotgun. Yeah, I'm just awful with shotguns in general, so I hate using them. So.
I am too. Like, it doesn't matter. They can be super close range, can't hit them. Far away, somehow I managed to do it. I don't know. No amount of choke or anything else like that seems to make it work to my brain.
Same. I'm just bad with them, and that's okay. I can admit that.
What do you mean? They're so comp ready, man. Everybody is using them. You were talking about right now. That's the key weapon for this stage.
They have their place. They definitely have their place in certain situations. But yeah, most of these players are going to stick to their ARs, and I completely understand why. Akreshe, with so much control as well. It's actually Akreshe and Oath have just this like weird juxtaposition where they're just holding each other up, but not really. Just waiting, because that's all this circle is. Phase 8 it's going to be more of the same. Okay, all these teams now are going to most likely stay around this position that they're in. They're going to wait the circle out. We're not going to see a lot of movement. And then what's going to happen is the final shift is the center circle dot is going to happen. And then everyone's going to die at once.
This is just the calm before the storm. The only team that really has to move is Dodge. They hear what's going on. It looks like they're trying to move into, again, the territory of the compound that is controlled by SSG as well as Fumba right now. So, I mean, Dodge doesn't have a lot of options. They've got Oath that's holding them from the outside. I don't know what they can do other than they just have to commit to one of these targets. They either have to choose to run into SSG's positioning, maybe play the outer wall without going inside, but NA should have an angle on that if he opts into doing it. Roth seems like he's finally being able to regroup with the rest of SSG. So I do believe that Dodge is leaning into the wall strategy right now. The big question is going to be, does Emmy know about this? Because he is going to have a nice angle if he manages to try to get anything with it. But I think that he's just kind of holding down cover point.
Well, I imagine Dodge, I mean, any of these members would also kind of look for that angle as well, knowing that it's a possibility. They know there's multiple teams here. There's no way it's just one team in this compound at this point. So Dodge opting, again, for the wall play, which I don't think is bad at all. It's just they need to commit to something at this point as a team, which it will be the wall. Yep.
Oh, man, Space Station Gaming. This is just getting more nerve-wracking for them, because they keep seeing things get closer and closer. They know that there's Molotovs around them. They can hear the footsteps of teams that are right up on top of them, but they don't have all the firing lines and all the vision on what's going on. Oath and Akreche have not yet stepped inside, but it looks like they're doing a little bit of the battle for the north at this point. Dodge looks like they're just going to go ahead and start to send it into SSG's compound. Are we going to see him be able to defend it? Quick shots coming through, and it's going to be SSG that managed to get 2. Make that 3, and boy, Dodge goes down fast. Good defense holding up from Space Station Gaming.
You love to see it. Space Station finally showing some signs of life, some real signs of life, as they're making it to the final top 5.
Ooh,
with at least 3 members up.
Mm-hmm. Getting a little bit of a read on what's going on. Looks like Akreche is retreating from that point to the north. They might be approaching them where we saw Dignitas playing a second ago, but it is going to be Oath that has firing angles onto it. So with the assistance of the 2 of them combined, there is nowhere for Akreche to go. Just 2 members up as they're trying to crawl their way through. VHZ on no life, trying to say, okay, what do I do from this stage? He's got to make it a way around this one. Good toss out of a grenade coming from Sparking, and boy, this is where do you go if you're Kaishin? Just hiding at this point, and that feels like that's going to be the name of the game for a couple of these guys.
And this 2-man squad of Dig is just continuing to cause problems for everyone else trying to come in. And because of this compound and everything in the position that Dig is in, they could very well win this as a duo.
They deserve it to a certain degree at this point.
Oh, but KSH
coming in back behind him. Oh, look at the read.
Shin
boy yet again coming up. 8 kills for Dignitas. It's starting to be methodical at this point. Godspeed.
Yeah, a 2v3v4. I mean, SSG and Dig desperately need this game.
Oath has the outside under control, and everybody is starting to be herded that direction by the blue zone. Dignitas has a little bit of a cleaner of approach just due to the hillside than the way that it's set up. Space Station Gaming fought for this early, managed to push Dignitas out of this point to get a little bit of control, and has had to deal with multiple teams trying to walk inside their building, so you know that they're a little bit damaged. Oath, on the other hand, a little bit more controlled in their approach, staying on the outside, really harassing and forcing teams up on top of each other. Speaking of that, Dignitas, Space Station Gaming slowly being pushed closer next to each other, and that could be huge for Dignitas. They needed this at a pivotal point. The blue zone's doing a ton of damage, but there we go. Space Station Gaming has the read with those shots. It's going to reveal their position. Oath running down the hillside, moving into firm, strong, defendable points, aware of where the position is coming from, and it looks like Oath is being set up for their second chicken dinner at this time. Trying to navigate through it. It is just going to be Roth having to move through the Molotovs, dance around, Ciz crawling back out, but it is so outnumbered at this point. It's only a matter of time, and there we go. Take the Oath. It's going to be Oath walking away with their second chicken dinner.
Yeah, that is their second chicken dinner. I didn't see how many kills they got, but that was just a very slow and patient game for Oath, to be completely honest. They didn't really have to do too much. They took their time with the rotation. They were smart about where they played, and they didn't overextend, because there was actually a few situations where I feel like they could have pushed and it potentially would have unraveled the team, but no, they decided, look, we have a good position, we're going to hold this out. And again, that was a game that I feel like once they were there on the north side of the ridge, they should have won, and they absolutely did. So well played to Oath.
I mean, these Miramar games, dude, they're so good right now. Like, I'm so glad I have another like Miramar enthusiast with me right now, because the way we saw these last 2 games play out, this is like what you want in PUBG. Tactical movement, using the terrain, leaning into teamwork, off-flanked positions. It's just a showcase of what competitive PUBG in these last 2 rounds is. And I am so proud specifically of these teams and how they handled it. Again, Oath, not the biggest amount of kills, but it was tactical, step by step. It was so cleanly played. My heart does feel a little bit bad for Dignitas, who got bullied and then bullied everybody else around them, but they went down trying their hardest, and you got to give them that. They walked away with a lot of kills.
Yeah, and at the very least, look, if they do manage to get 1 win, right, that will propel them to, I think, 4th. Just one, at least 4th, because now we have multiple teams that have multiple dinners. But Dig is still playing a good game, and it's not perfect, but they're really trying. They're showing signs of what we wanted to see from that team coming into this. And yes, no win, but they'll get there. I believe, man. I believe.
You just pointed out, and I realized we got a lot of teams going back for seconds right now. They're not happy with 1 chicken dinner, man. They're just trying to stack it all up, and this is, again, a byproduct of the circle. Like the circles in this territory and this terrain is a very complex situation to try to play around. You can see that you end up with very wide vision in some locations and then very narrow corridors that you can try to control in others, and it makes for a very like firm commitment for teams and play style and how they're wanting to accomplish their goals in this map.
And we talked about it as well. I mean, as that circle posted, even the first phase of it, right? If that circle and where it decided to start shifting towards, it was really open. A lot of teams had to do some unfavorable rotations to get there. That was disgusting, by the way.
He's so good.
He really has become so good, man. I really love watching this. This is a very valiant attempt from Shrimsy, but
he knocked one. He knocked one.
No, that was not a bad attempt. The nade actually did, I think, a good chunk of damage to all 4 members of that vehicle as well. But yeah, ultimately, this was a difficult zone to play. We saw a lot of teams have to make rotations they didn't want to. A lot of teams got wiped early, but the tactical element of what happened in the last 3 circles, I agree with you, was very enjoyable to watch.
Just look at the awareness coming out from Shinboy yet again.
Yes, that was huge.
Oath, I mean, they've got so many tools for success. Look at them, they're sitting pretty comfortably. Do note the fact that they had been a little bit ravaged by the firefights as they managed to get into this point. Roth, that blue zone, doing a big chunk of damage, but he's having to jump around. Look at how narrow his movement capabilities are. He's got the blue zone behind him. He's got Molotovs that are holding him back. He's trying to move through the smokes. But again, a good read coming out from Oath, as they are going to walk away with 4 kill points and the chicken dinner. But you got to give a big shout out to Akreshai Space Station Gaming Dignitas versus walking away with a ton of kills. Oath didn't get a ton of kills. They just got the ones that mattered.
That's true. That's very true. And on top of that, Akreshai, I mean, versus, as you said, Young Kings, again, Latin America showing up every single game in the last 2 days, which is wonderful to see, Matt.
That's what you want. You want to see the entirety of the region continue to grow, because the more the Latin America succeeds just means the fact that the more that North America is going to succeed, the more that they scrim against them. You just kind of have a constant stable growth that's going to be coming out of the entirety of the region, and that's a beautiful thing to see, especially with the way that these 2 sub-regions play. They're just already fun to watch. Now watch them just get a little bit more deadly every step of the way. Yes, please.
And look at Kai Shen as well, 682 damage, topping it off for them as well. Yeah, overall, Akreshai, really. I mean, honestly, you want to talk about teams that went under my radar at the very least. Starting yesterday, it was Akreshai. I would not really have picked them to play so well, but not only have they been playing well, it hasn't been luck either. I mean, every single push, every decision that they have made to play as a team, the team fights they've taken, the amount of damage they've done, even when they're going out, Akreshai has been more than impressive so far. And if they can continue that tomorrow, man, I can only imagine what's going to happen next week.
My only takeaway with Akreshai right now is everybody shortened their names down to 3 letters, and I don't know if I'm supposed to call them by their full tag or if I'm supposed to call them by the 3 letters. It's always confusing whenever they make the changes like that. So, all right, guys. I know we're gonna. I've been doing a couple of these little ads, but I'm gonna full sell it this time. Godspeed. You ready?
Yeah, do it.
See if I can go
ready.
Full movie voice. You guys know what's coming. You guys have been watching PUBG. You know that developed by PUBG Studio. PUBG New State will launch as a free-to-play experience on Android and iOS in 2021. Make sure you pre-register at newstate.pubg.com now. We're going to take a quick break while you see a new ad, and we're going to throw it over the analyst desk to break down everything leading in tomorrow.
PUBG New State. Developed by PUBG Studio, PUBG New State will launch as a free-to-play experience on Android and iOS in 2021. Make sure you pre-register on newstate.pubg.com now.
Wow.
Well, hello.
Hello,
I guess
everyone.
we're back, and we have an interview finally with a member of our winning team, Oath. Snakers, how you feeling, buddy?
Feeling pretty good, you know. Like we're popping off right now, you know.
Really, second best team in North America right now, honestly. Hi, Bach, you got anything for Snakers?
I mean, I guess let's address the elephant in the room. What's been the biggest struggle, obviously, throughout the last, I guess, 7 games since game 1? What's kind of been going wrong for you guys?
Well, like normally we play off of momentum, so I thought we would have that, and then like the lobby just like started playing out like really weird, and I guess like we weren't really expecting a lot of the things that would happen. Like we ran into a bunch of random teams on the edge like every game, and we're still trying to figure out how to like play the games correctly, but we got 2 wins, so I guess that's all that matters right now, at least.
I think...
sorry, Cameron. I was gonna say, actually, I did see Kickstarter obviously mentioning this. What's the kind of going forward? Are there any, like, I guess, band-aid fixes you guys gonna make in the next few games? Obviously tomorrow.
We're definitely gonna try to avoid like the bad teams. You guys know who they are. But yeah, that's basically what we're gonna try to do.
Okay.
Not much more to it.
Yeah, I think we can all recognize that there is a lot of weirdness going on through this whole series. Are you able to, without giving away any trade secrets, of course, go more in depth on what you mean by the lobby acting weird? Is it just, as you mentioned, like teams being at weird, unexpected positions at different times? Is there this whole sort of regional meta shift that's taking place right now?
Well, yeah, definitely the meta is different with 8 SA teams, because like in general, I feel like people don't like take as much space. Like they're way more content with just like not moving, so it's way harder for us as like an edge team to play around them when we have like 10 people in front of us or surrounding us, and we're used to taking so much space, and now all of a sudden we can't. So
Well, it's been a tough road, to say the least, for a lot of teams. Fortunately, the road easing up just a little bit for you guys here going into the final day with 2 wins. Any shout outs that you want to give before we let you go?
no, I just want to say that we got 2 kills a game and we're in 4th place, and this format is amazing.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us once again, Snakers. Congratulations on that 2nd win, and good luck tomorrow in the final 4 games.
Thank you. We're clearly better than Sonics as well. I just want to say that.
Clearly, obviously. I mean, the scoreboard don't lie, right?
Yep. Or better.
All right. Well, there you go. Snakers laying it out on the line there a little bit. And I got to say, man, I got to agree with him when I say the lobby has definitely played out a little bit weirdly, Hypoc, to say the least.
I mean, yeah, that's obviously with, and again, I was referencing, obviously, Kickstarter talking about, you know, how difficult it's been to play on the edge. And you could argue, you know, teams that's their go-to and kind of they thrive in that scenario. They're the ones that ultimately have the better read in terms of tendencies, right? These teams that like to center up are usually ones that are very reactive. They don't really have that many variables to deal with. So it's interesting to hear that insight because, I mean, one of the biggest discussions with the format change was going to be around the emphasis of you know, diving center, going for prio compounds and things like that. So it's actually quite interesting to take away, I mean, from other things from the interview, but it's interesting to take that away from kind of, you know, their learning so far from the games.
Yeah, and Cameron, honestly, it feels like, you know, we have been talking about the meta shift with the new format and how that going center and getting compound can also play. But we've also seen teams find success with that edge play, and it seems like it varies a lot recently. So maybe this weekend more than ever before, maybe today more than any other day we've ever seen. But, you know, do you think this is the kind of thing that sticks up, or are we going to kind of like fall back to the normal where it's kind of 50-50?
I hope that we fall back to 50-50 because some of the more exciting teams are the ones that do play from the edge. I just keep thinking back onto Dignitas's play in PCS4, Dignitas's play in the group stage, where they would have some amazing games, and they've even had a couple of games here, including the one that admittedly got overshadowed by TSM's even better game, but they still got 12 wins playing in from the edge. They just weren't able to win out. And so I really hope that style continues to be one that is able to find success. 8 games is not enough to really 100% say whether that play style is completely like impossible to execute upon, but it is putting me in a little bit of a worried spot.
Yeah, I mean, well, and like I said, you know, it seems like it comes in waves, right? Where you can play one type of play style and find a lot of success with it, and then all of a sudden, like Stegers was saying, the lobby just starts acting weird, and all of a sudden, your play style that you were finding success with doesn't work anymore, and maybe that's what's happening with teams like Sonics and Dignitas.
It could be, yeah. And I mean, again, you could look back at Orangle's its own kind of case, I guess, with 2 very similar circles, then actually you don't really even get a fighting chance in some of these when there's 2 completely different kind of setups. And like I said, we even saw visibly some of the teams that did worse in that game won today. Almost you could sit back and say make desperation plays, which again adds to that kind of unpredictability. It's really difficult to kind of get your finger on the beat of some of these games.
I mean, in all honesty, you know, there was all this talk about how, like, oh, you know, we'll get the winners with only 4 kills. Usually we don't see that, but today we got 2. You got Fiumba with a 4-kill win and an Oath with a 4-kill win, but that's not typically how these things have been playing out, Cameron. It
really hasn't, but more than anything else, I am starting to get very, very worried for the Sonics. Their kill numbers are still looking really, really good. They came into 32. I think they ended up with 50 kills overall. So if you want to look at just today, that's still about 18. That's still 18 kills. That's still an all right number, but it's making me worried for the expectation that they are going to maintain themselves as like the best team in the Americas, as much as they've showed us through previous events.
Well, I mean, just to cut in there, sorry, Mike. I started the day off by saying it's not a case of if, it's when, right? And now, actually, Sonic's becoming under pressure to close out a game is not off, and close out the first win is actually the difference, right? And we were talking about a leaderboard deficit here because that 1 win now only really puts them above by 1 place, right? It doesn't even really change all that much when you think about it, because they're the kill leader outside of the teams that don't have a win. So this is the difficult part, because now we're coming into obviously another day where actually it's 2 wins that puts them in contention for the top spots.
Yeah, and look, hey, if you want to look for a silver lining, I guess the silver lining I would think would be this could be good for Sonics going forward to kind of find themselves in this position where they're having to play catch up, which is not a position that they found themselves in very often, and having to kind of fight this battle from behind. But as you said, it's going to take more than just 1 win now, because I mean, they're already in 5th but everybody else has got 2 wins. But that being said, we've seen Sonics get multiple wins in one day before, Cameron.
Yeah, we have. The problem is we have yet to see them be in a consistently top placing position today, at least. Traditionally, historically, even though they only get maybe 1 or 2 wins in a 6-game series, they're still in like 2nd, 3rd, 4th place almost every single time. It's not looking the same way now.
It's going to be tougher for sure. But keep in mind that these are 2 separate weekends, right? So after this weekend, they can still reset, wipe the board clean, come into next weekend and still find themselves a little bit more success. We'll see what happens. We still got 4 more games left to play, but we also still have 2 weekends left to play in ESL. But you can get ready now for PCS 5 if you've got a team that you think can find their way to the top of the leaderboards here and maybe get yourself a couple of PGC points. Make sure you go and register now now at PUBG, na.pubgesports.com for PCS5. Open qualifiers will be beginning soon, so keep an eye out on that. But for now, that is going to do it for us today. On behalf of Godspeed and Matchroom and myself, Hypoc and Cameron Davis, thank you so much for joining us, and make sure you're back here today for the final 4 games of Week 1. We'll see you next time.